can, in the coming days, we will restore all the resources, the power. Our multi-service centers will be prepared. We hope CenterPoint will continue to do their outstanding job. They're bringing in thousands of additional assistants, line personnel, vegetation personnel. Clearing our streets and lines and getting the power back on is one of our highest priorities. I do not have power. We're all living this together. We're all in this together. Collaboration with every level of government, with every social agency, with the faith community, and with these outstanding first responders. I'm going to ask our fire chief to come give us a real-time report of his operations and what we can do going forward. Chief Pena.
Thank you, Mayor. I think, well, the mayor nailed it. I don't know. He summarized essentially what we want to communicate to our residents and to our community is stay home, protect yourselves, protect your families. We're in the middle of this. It's going to keep raining. We're going to continue to see street level flooding, but I'm going to report really quickly on our response posture, our focus, our service demand, and our resource status for this operational period. As the mayor mentioned, our focus right now is life safety. The life safety posture is what we're focusing on right now, and we're going to continue this until this storm passes, and then we're going to move into the recovery and consequence management. But for right now, our resources are committed to emergency response. The service demand, we've had one fire fatality that happened early this morning at a house fire in the southeast part of our city. The high water rescue call types and the live wires, the down wires, are a primary service demand. The streets are flooded. We saw video earlier of a fire crew evacuating and rescuing an individual that got stuck in a high water situation. If everybody could see that video, you see how resource intensive those call types are. We cannot continue to service every call type that same way. So we ask that you do the responsible thing. If you don't need to be on the street, stay off the street. If you are on the street, do not drive over flooded roadways. It doesn't take much for your car to be the electrical system to be overcome, and you're dead in the water essentially. So please be cautious, heed the warnings, stay off the flooded roadways. What we're anticipating is widespread power outages. We're seeing that now. Those will continue. If you're going to use your generators, please do so responsibly. Keep those away from your home. Carbon monoxide poisoning is a real concern following these types of storms. Use the 911 system for emergencies only. If you need to report any other service need, 311 or 211 is the appropriate way to do so. Reserve 911 for true emergencies. And again, stay off the streets. Stay off the streets because there is a lot of risk. High winds are still in the area. Street level flooding. The mayor mentioned about the condition of the bayous. If those overflow, we're going to see some structural flooding that will require our response as well. So please do the responsible thing. Don't expose yourself, your family, and first responders to the additional risk. Look out for yourself and look out for each other. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Judge Pena. The real clear statement is help us help you. By staying in place, sheltering in place, you will assist the community because we need our resources addressing the most severe situations. With that comment, I want to recognize Chief Harden to give us an HPD status report.
Thank you, Mayor. I cannot reiterate enough what the Mayor and Chief Pena have said. As this weather passes, which hopefully it will in the next hour or two, and we begin to or continue to respond to these rescue calls, please help us be part of the solution and not part of the problem. Stay home. Stay home so that we can utilize our resources to help the people who really need it right now. For HPD resources, we have our high water trucks that have been here all night, along with our fire partners and Public Works. We so far have made 15 high water rescue calls, rescuing 8 individuals. Our trucks are out and about, coming upon people who don't even have cell service, so they have not been able to call, as well as responding to calls for service. We're co-located with our fire and Public Works partners, as well as our other partners in the OEM. and our EOC, and doing everything we can to respond as quickly as possible. Every single time we have an event like this where we have power outages, you always have a select few of our population that try to take advantage of the situation. Well, let me tell you that we are putting the full weight and force of the Houston Police Department behind helping the citizens of Houston. That includes staffing people and officers that you cannot see at places without power. So we will be in and about our community, both in our high water vehicles, our marked police cars, and our unmarked cars that you cannot see. So please stay home. Stay home so we can help the people that need it most. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Chief. The emergency center where we're located right now is the nerve center of the city during emergencies. We've been here all night. They've been preparing the last 48 hours. They're the best professional emergency response team in the country. We've done this before, and quite frankly, we're in the middle of an emergency and all hands on deck right here. I would ask our director, Tom Munoz, to come give us a status report and how the public can assist the emergency center going forward. Mr. Munoz.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to reiterate what my colleagues behind me, the mayor, have said. Life safety, that is at the stage we're at right now. Again, want to emphasize the message. Stay off the road, stay at home, shelter in place. We're currently at level 1 now. We're working with state and local and federal officials to ensure the safety of everyone. What we are doing is identifying those vulnerable areas, assisted living homes, nursing homes. We have already those identified. We'll be monitoring that situation very closely to ensure that people are safe. And again, that the rest of the residents are safe as well. We are going to be working diligently throughout the day and the night till this is over. But one thing that I want all Houstonians to know is that we are working together, have been working for the last 4 days to ensure everyone's safety. Mitigation plans are already set in place. The other thing that we're going to go after, we want people to understand that we are going to be in the recovery phase after the life safety, as Chief Pena had mentioned. So we are paying attention, we're monitoring closely, and again, want to emphasize, stay off the roads, shelter in place. We have the whole city already under the watch. We are paying attention. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. I don't mind being redundant at this point. Shelter in place, stay off the roads, call 911. Our first responders are responding, fire, police, public works. Randy, why don't you come up and let us know the status of your public works. Our water supply is safe. Our water pressure is strong. Wastewater as well, backed up by generators. So we're monitoring our water supply, and I'm going to let our director give us a real-time report on public works.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, in the interest of redundancy, I can't emphasize enough how important it is to stay off the roads. As the mayor mentioned, the water supply is good. It is safe. We're doing well there right now, although we are still faced there with the same power challenges that everyone across the city is faced with. Most of our facilities are using backup generator power to accomplish that. We continue to monitor things, though, to ensure that we stay above all of the necessary thresholds from a regulatory standpoint. We are well above those thresholds at this point. So our drinking water supply, our wastewater is all operating within the regulatory parameters. As far as our streets are concerned, it's important for everyone to remember the primary drainage mechanism throughout this city is our streets. For better or worse, that is the reality of the situation. And so while we see our streets fill up with water, a lot of that is by design so that it can be conveyed out to the appropriate outfalls and drainage channels that are necessary. When we have an event like this, our streets are going to naturally drain slower than we are used to. And so we ask people to be very patient as they do that. And that's why we'd like you to stay home as long as you possibly can to allow the streets for time to clear. Once they clear of the water, we're going to find other hazards that are going to be there. And so once the storm passes and it's safe for our crews to be able to do so in conjunction with fire and police, we'll be out on the streets. We'll be out there with saw crews clearing debris. We'll be making sure that everything is operational from the right of way. You can help us by reporting power outages at traffic lights and intersections that you see, whether it's flashing or the intersection is dark itself. Report that to 311. That helps us make sure that we can get the appropriate priorities there. We'll be working with our partners, of course, at TxDOT, like we did just a few weeks ago, to help restore power to the intersections as quickly as we possibly can. Beware of live wires that may have come down as a result of some of the debris that we find in the city. But most importantly, stay safe, stay off the roads as long as you possibly can.
Thank you, Randy. And after we transition from life safety and rescue, we'll do an assessment. We will see where our multi-service centers can open to assist residents. And then we will also be working with the faith community and our social services. What I want to emphasize to everyone is collaboration. We're in this together. If we're united, we look out for each other, we're going to come out of this as safe and sound as humanly possible. We literally have rescues going on as I speak to you right now. First responders are putting their lives at risk, but that's what they're trained for. It's working, but if everyone will help us, help them. Look out for the most vulnerable. We've identified nursing homes, independent living. If you have additional information, certainly call non-emergency calls to 311, emergencies 911. And here's something I know it's very difficult to express, but we have to have patience in these situations. We have to prioritize our rescues and our first responders. So we're there. We're going to be here all day. We'll do an update mid-afternoon. We'll be here all night long, and we will not rest until every Houstonian, every community is served by the first responders, health, public works, and every service that a great city provides. With that said, I'll be glad to answer any questions. We're just about there. Certainly to our Spanish-speaking residents, I would ask Chief Pena to come give a status report in Spanish.
Yes, sir. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bueno, miren, les vamos a dar un reporte en español de lo que ha ocurrido hasta este momento. Hemos visto que la tormenta es grave, es seria.
Okay,
Y ha
guys,
causado bastantes apagones
you jump in here.
en varias áreas.
As I don't think
También
much of my audience is Spanish speaking, but a lot of Houston is. I'm trying to go over just hang on a second.
City leaders a shelter in place, stay off those roads. More than 400 911 calls in the last hour alone. Our crews are stretched thin. They need you to help them by not getting yourself into any trouble.
I know, 10 inches of water across the city, according to the mayor. He said even up to 90-mile-per-hour winds. I did catch an 80-mile-per-hour wind at Hobby earlier today in our reporting. The major concern he's saying is, of course, making sure that people are safe. They are in a rescue mode right now. He said that there has been so many rescue calls. He's just urging people to stay home. And he says that sheltering in place is, of course, the best thing you can do at this point. He did mention that the fire department has been a bit stressed with all the rescues that they have been doing, some of which we've watched play out live here on air. So he's just saying, please stay at home, monitor the situation. Don't get yourself into a situation where you're going to need.
Okay, so let me give you a little bit of the updates that I have so far. First of all, guys, we were looking earlier. They have the map really small right there, but the map that was much bigger earlier. I wanted to show you guys where I'm at. I'm in no real danger from any of this. I just wanted you guys to know that. However, these are my neighbors 2 hours to my west in Houston, and I have lots of friends in the Houston area that I felt like this was important. If you look at the map behind these ladies right here, Look at the Lake Charles at the far right-hand corner of your map. We're about where the K is in Lake Charles is where I sit. Actually, looking at that, no, they got that. I'm where the L is. So where the L is in Lake Charles is where I sit right now. So as you see, we're way far away from this thing. As far as any, bad damaging winds, we're definitely in whatever that rain is. And I say that I'm looking out my studio now and there's literally no rain coming down. So apparently it looks like it's just south of us about to get here. I am hearing the winds in here and I'm seeing things blowing around outside. Not big. I think that we're looking at 30 to 50 mile an hour winds here in gusts, not sustained. Houston looks like they've had as much as or as high as 84 mile an hour gusts, which is not that bad, to be honest with you. It does not sound like this is a massive wind event. I'm not a weather person, but I certainly feel like I'm a hurricane expert because we've been through so darn many of them, at least in the past 4 years. We've had plenty. In the past 20, we've had probably 6, and we ride them out here for the most part. What happens is the reason why you have the one dead that you see down below, that's a tree that fell on a house. The rest of the family was fine. The tree fell on that house, killing the man in there. And usually what happens, it's not that the winds are ridiculously strong knocking these trees down. It's that before the bad stuff gets there and during all of that, it's dropping torrential rains. Like if you look at that Houston map behind the ladies right now, you can see most of the rain has left the Houston area, but it saturated that ground. And some of these oak trees, depending on what type of oak that it is, they have a super shallow root system. So what you have is that ground gets so soft because it's drenched from the rain that it doesn't take but like an 84 mile an hour gust to knock one of these things over. So that's more than likely what happened here. Again, if this were a massive wind event, you would have heard of way more damage. And we're not hearing of a lot of damage. We're hearing of mostly rain, high water, storm surge. A storm surge, I'm seeing 7-foot storm surge is the maximum that I spotted. I think it's averaging 4 to 6 feet of storm surge, and it was during low tide. So that helped things out a lot. So most of your coastal areas are going to experience all of that. Not obviously Houston, has a waterway system and a port there, but it's probably just going to be in that generalized area that's going to have that issue. So that's my quick update. Again, one person has died, 2.5 million people without power. 7-foot storm surge, 5 inches of rain. The mayor said 10 inches. I don't know that I believe that. I think the official reports are 5 to 6 inches of rain and upwards to an 84 mile an hour gust. So let me return to these ladies' coverage.
Right, let's listen back in. We understand Mayor John Whitmire has a few more comments. We want to make sure we don't miss anything important.
Concerns me, life and safety of every resident and everyone in our surrounding communities. Look out for each other. Allow us to help you by you staying sheltered in place. Stay off the roads. Our traffic lights are damaged. It's going to take hours, if not days, to get them back operational. You can't go through an intersection full speed. You have to stop when there's no lights. Traveling here early this morning, we saw in Shepherd people speeding through 34th Street, 43rd Street. Unacceptable. Stay off the roads. If it's essential travel, go slow. Look out for each other. This is a dangerous situation, and it will be dangerous for several more hours in terms of severe weather. Then allow us to get out and do an assessment and let our first responders, our city employees, public works do their job. But to do our job like you expect, you've got to do your part by staying at home, only essential workers traveling. We're going to bring in additional resources, county, state, and federal resources, and we're going to get there. But give us some time. We're doing everything humanly possible right now. We're fixing to leave this briefing and go back to the nerve center, take calls, collaborate with all of our resources, and make things get better as soon as possible. We all know we want energy. We all know we want electricity. One of our highest priorities, Centerpoint, is recruiting resources as we talk. We've been there before. We know what we're doing. Now we've got to remember, look out for lives, look out for safety, and allow our first responders and city resources to do their job. I urge everyone, do your part by staying at home, listening to the press, hugging your loved ones, and let's go forward like we know how. Thank y'all. Got to go to work.
Well, he's trying to get reelected.
All right, and there you have it. You just heard the mayor say, we got to go to work. A lot is happening in the city right now. One of the biggest takeaways that we heard from this press briefing was just how many rescues that there have been. Over 30 rescues. There have been over 400 911 calls made in the last hour. The mayor reminded everybody, though, to call 311 if you're reporting non-emergency things like the traffic lights or trees down or things that don't need to tie up the 911 line. And unfortunately, before the mayor spoke, we heard from the fire chief, Chief Pena, that one person did die in a fire. And then, of course, we reported on the 2 deaths that happened in Precinct 4, or Constables 4 let us know that there were 2 deaths that happened because trees fell on homes as people were sheltering in place. And it's just so sad. But anchor Anthony Antoine joining our coverage now and bracing for your first hurricane as well.
Yeah, you know, it was certainly reassuring to have you and everyone here on the team guiding us through this. We're doing our very best to get you guys the most up-to-date information as it becomes available. We are going through this storm with you. So many of us are experiencing some of the same thing at home. I don't have power either, but it is reassuring to hear the mayor kind of lay out a plan for us moving forward. Right now, the focus is life safety. You have to do your part in order for first responders to do theirs, and that means staying at home. And like you were mentioning, unfortunately, with some of the fatalities we've experienced here, it was involving a tree falling on the homes, and the homes, that's where you want to be. That is the safest place for you to be, is it inside of your home and hunkering down. And unfortunately, even by doing that, still you can have these situations where these large trees can fall and ultimately taking someone's life.
Okay, I'm going to look at a couple of things real quick that I want to talk about. If these guys go to anything breaking or some video footage, before the mayor came on, there was some really good video footage that came out and that this live stream was actually showing. So if they get back to that, I will, of course, let you guys know. First of all, for those of you who have emailed, texted, messaged, if you look, we're fine here in Lake Charles. If you look over to the far right at the map behind them where Lake Charles is, if you look about where the L is, actually where the larger Interstate 10 logo is, that's about where I am. So just to the left of the L in Lake Charles, where it has the Interstate 10 logo, that's pretty much where I sit right now. So wind gusts as I look outside, the wind is whipping a little bit. It's certainly not bad. We're in no danger here from wind. Rain, we haven't gotten really anything to speak of. I believe my rain gauge showed 1/10 of an inch so far this morning. However, it looks like it's going to be pulling more up off of the Gulf anytime now. But again, certainly no danger, like zero risk here in the Lake Charles area. Couple things I want to mention. First of all, you look at these people in Houston. Understand Houston, those of you who have never been to Houston, we're 2 hours from there. Houston is almost all concrete. I know you see some grass to the left over there, but that's pretty much an embankment on the side of the interstate. This is a massive clover leaf right here that you're looking at, and you're only seeing a couple of layers of it. There's so much concrete in Houston that the ground does not absorb much water because there's not much ground to absorb water. Even though ground sheds water and pushes it from a drainage standpoint to estuaries, creeks, rivers, and things of that nature, the ground itself, because it gets saturated, absorbs a bunch of that water that doesn't need to roll off and be shed off somewhere else. Houston has so much concrete, and this is engineers. I've spoken to engineers about this, that they used to have a drainage system, but the more and more and more that they concrete over that, there's nowhere for this rain to go. It's just held. So you see these streets like this on these underpasses under these interstates. There's nowhere for the water to go. There's no ground for it to soak into. I mean, it's essentially sitting inside a concrete pond right now. Eventually, yes, it will dissipate, but right now it's just so you see. I mean, it's flooding these streets completely. Houston's really bad for flooding. Anytime they have a lot of rain that settles in on Houston, it shuts the entire city down. I don't think Houston was as concerned with wind as far as this hurricane, not near so much as they were how much rain they would get. I will say this seems to be a pretty fast moving storm. Yeah, you see the water just sitting there. This is a fast moving storm, so it's not going to drop as much water as, say, Hurricane Harvey did a few years ago when it doubled back out into the Gulf and came back on shore again. So this is certainly not going to happen here. This looks like Galveston, just south of Houston. So if that's all the water that they have in Galveston, Houston's not going to be that bad either. Galveston's, roughly, depending on traffic, an hour south of Houston. Some things I wanted to mention real quick, especially to my friends who are in the Houston area. I know some of you have friends in the Conroe, Woodlands area, even Katy, some right there in Houston. Even some of these are personal friends of mine. Best advice I can give you is you should not be dependent on anybody else. And what I mean by that is local officials. They are looking out for their own safety. They are not going to get there very fast. You are your own first responder. You need to be conscious of what your surroundings are. This includes potential for looting, as you saw the map earlier, and we're probably going to see right here with this lady. The rain has pretty much pushed its way out. Criminals don't mind a little bit of wind. So as the wind slows down a little bit and the rain has stopped, you're going to see, especially in these areas with no electricity, you're going to start to see people wander. And what that means is looting. Say what you want. You can call it whatever you want. It will happen. It happens all the time. And you better not be dependent on a 911 call when that person walks in your back door unannounced and decides to start taking things. So you're your own first responder. I told one of my friends in Houston earlier today, I said, you do have a loaded sidearm and maybe a shotgun you can throw over your shoulder if you have to walk around outside, do you? And he was like, yep. So I think that's my best advice I could give. Houston is a Constitution carry state. So carry that gun on your side. If you have to carry a shotgun for additional protection, law enforcement, in many cases, Harris County's, not exactly gun friendly, but they're rarely going to have anything to say about that if you are policing your own stuff. I don't know that I would go wandering around through the neighborhood like that, but if you're policing your own stuff, you would unlikely be dealt with. I want to let this lady's coverage, let's see what she's talking about. Look, she's updating us.
Still hard wind, lots of tree damage, and you're going to see a lot of that on the roadways. Just not too long ago, right in front of the station, they had to clear a tree. People couldn't even go past, to get to the station. But look at all of that debris that is in the roadways. And of course, a lot of the areas are still getting hit. So it's not over. We've got a lot to report on, a lot in the streets, a lot of high water. These are ditches full and shingles flying off in LaPorte. This is sent in by Leslie. And so this continues to be the situation throughout a lot of the city. It's not over, and you won't see the damage until it's a little bit too late. Let's go now to Omar here in Houston. He says, Beryl damage, backyard, trees, fencing. You can see all kind of stuff. Wow, that is just a mess right there. We're hoping everybody was safe because you don't know which way the trees are headed in. So you're at home, you're heeding the warnings, but sometimes things like this happen. So you just need to be aware, stay away from those windows, stay away from your vehicle. And I know some people want to go to their cars. Maybe you have no power. You want to charge up a little bit. If there are no winds, maybe that is a little safe if your car's literally in front. But if not, I would not advise going over through if you're in apartments, if you have to walk far, I would not advise walking over to your car. Maybe it's going to, right now it's about 77 degrees. So we're hoping it doesn't get too hot, but they may be a problem and people may want to just jump in their vehicles and thinking that they can go to a better location. Of course, find what is best for you, but the streets are not what is best for Houstonians right now, or most of the greater Houston area either, because the streets are used, for the flood waters to go down. That's the avenue that they go. So there's no other way around it. And if it keeps getting pounded kind of in the northern area where the hurricane kind of is right now, or the tropical storm, I should say, all of that it's still going on. So right now we're looking at Houston. This is Omar. Let's go over now to another shot that we were looking at. I think we have maybe Baytown. There was a truck that had fallen, a tree that had fallen on a truck. There's just so many pictures coming in, and we appreciate everyone who is sending in this stuff. It's, you know, as long as you're doing it safely, we don't want you to go out into the street and get this for us, but please continue to send them in and stay safe and stay off the roads.
Certainly a good reminder, Coco. Thank you so much. And thank you guys at home for sending in those pictures and videos. It really helps us tell the story as we try to fill in the blanks here as we are going through this storm here together.
For sure. Now, we have our reporter, Greg Grugan. The last time we saw him, he almost blew over in the wind. Now we have him out at 288 in Alameda. Greg, what are conditions like where you are?
What a mess. That's all I can say. What a mess. Look at it. 288 and 610 is completely underwater, and not just a little bit of water. We're talking about a virtual lake. Looks like it goes for a full half mile. You heard the mayor talking about high water rescues here. We're at the pass right at Holly Hall. You can see the vehicle that was abandoned there. We hope that person got out okay. While we were sitting here, a guy hammered into the water in a Tesla. We thought he was done for. And he made it in several hundred yards, managed to pull out. Look, this is a flashback for me. This interchange was completely underwater during Tropical Storm Allison. I live not far from here. My wife was a reporter at Fox 26. She spent 3 days here waiting for this water to come down. So a whole lot of water, nowhere to go, and this is completely impassable. Will be, I would suspect, for quite some time. We do know that this particular area, 288 and 610, has been undergoing lots of construction over several months, and I wonder if that has anything to do with the fact that it is filling with so much water. But as you can see, lots of water here. It's not going anywhere fast. Hopefully no one drives into it, because that's a losing prospect. Guys, back to you.
And you know, Greg, I see some folks there outside behind you as well, kind of taking it all. Have you had a chance to speak to any of them? Are those vehicles, do they belong to any of the people outside there behind you?
You know, lots of onlookers here. We've been on scene setting up. We hope to talk to some of those folks, mostly just curious to see what's going on here. When I was telling you about the Tesla rolling in, dozens of people ran over to watch that unfold and hope that person could get out safely. He managed to do it. I bet he won't be driving into high water again.
Man,
guys,
how dangerous. It is remarkable how different the conditions look compared to where you were just a couple of hours ago, Greg, when you almost blew over.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the wind's still gusting here. It has tamped down somewhat. When we first got here, I'm working with photographer Matt Mateka. He was bracing with the camera on his shoulders, and it was really kind of, you know, kind of perilous. But the wind seems to be dropping to some degree. It's still very, very brisk. Sky's gray. We're hoping that the rain is over and that the Bayou City can dry out for a while. Guys?
And Greg, before we let you go here, in that press conference, the mayor was talking about the bayous all across the city. And one of the bayous he brought up was Brazoria Bayou. And I know you were roaming across the city earlier here today, and you were at the Stein Family Park area in Maryland.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. We were on Brazoria Bayou near Fondren earlier today, and it was full. Now, Brazoria Bayou underwent a huge development project called the Braze Project, which widened and deepened that channel for flood control. This is going to be a big test of whether Project Braze actually worked. I mean, I covered the Memorial Day flood, the Tax Day flood, and Hurricane Harvey. Some of those neighborhoods were flooded 2 and 3 times. Project Braze was supposed to be the answer, and this is a big test today. So I'm sure we'll be checking that out later. So far, so good over there, but water is still streaming into the bayou from the cities. From the streets. And so we'll see if it is able to contain everything that came down in the last 6, 7, 8 hours.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's the value of having an experienced reporter in the field, right? Can give us that context to that project and what's happening. And Greg paying attention to what can happen there with that in the future. Greg, thank you so much.
Greg, thank you. We appreciate it. 288.
Okay, we'll talk to you guys later.
He was at 288 and 610, and it's underwater. So you could see those cars that were just stuck in there, because those are people that aren't aware that these roads are flooding. And then, just like our officials are saying, just stay home because they're having to do too many of these rescues. And once your car goes in water like that, who knows if it'll even be okay once it gets out of there, or what will happen to it. So it's just better if you stay home for your safety, for our first responders' safety. And it's nice that we do have reporters keeping tabs on all of the situations that are happening throughout the city.
And it was interesting when he was talking about those cars, one of them being a Tesla. It didn't even cross my mind that those electrical vehicles that are out there on the roads with this type of ponding and this level of flooding happening across the city. As we continue to look at what's happening across the city, let's go to our Chelsea Edwards now, who's in West Columbia, giving us another look at some of the damage now done by the storm. Chelsea.
Hey, we actually pulled over. We've been assessing the damage out here in West Columbia. We're off of 36 near 35. We had to stop and give you a look at this tire shop where it looks like the bay doors have they've caved in. They've been ripped off the hinges here. Just to look at some of the damage, people may think Category 1 might not be so bad. Getting a look at how powerful these winds have been just on the roadways. We've been seeing a lot of this. Put my seatbelt back on here. Trees down all over this area, either split or uprooted, a lot of debris in the roadways, and we're starting to see people starting their cleanup. Hopefully doing that carefully, just, because we've also seen a lot. This is an older area, so a lot of power lines down. And we just want people, like, if they are starting to clean up, that they make sure that they're not dealing with any trees that might be entangled with power lines. We are seeing so many branches, so many limbs out here in the roadways. Again, no point in driving out here if you don't have to. We've seen some, windows busted. Hopefully people inside their homes are okay. We haven't heard any additional reports of any loss out here. Just quite the mess. We're looking at trash cans and bins and all sorts of things in the roadways now. People just kind of heading out, trying to get things cleaned up out here. We were in Lake Jackson earlier, where I would say it was especially hard to navigate because of the amount of trees in the area that we were in. And just coming off of 288, off of the freeway, we could see so much damage, signs blown over, signs damaged, and of course, people stuck where they are, especially at one apartment complex, people trapped on the second floor. Take a listen.
All right, Chelsea, thank you so much for that. Chelsea, if you can, one more time as well. I'm sorry if I misheard you. What else are you seeing? Like, where were you earlier today? And talk about the differences in some of the spots that you're seeing this damage.
Apologies. I thought we had the sound bite from earlier. So I could walk you through. We actually started in Angleton. We were trying to make our way to Freeport earlier this morning, but we had to hunker down in Angleton because the storm got so bad. So we were out at the Buc-ee's there off of 288 and 35. We were on the dirty side of the storm, and we got a lot of it. One of the afterwards saw one of the ice chests, one of those large ice chests where they have, the packs of ice in the front that had been picked up and tossed. A lot of damage, a lot of down power lines over in that area and small trees. And then we ventured out to Lake Jackson, where we were seeing a lot of trees trees down. That's just, an older neighborhoods there. A lot of trees that just did not survive these very strong winds. So they're dealing with a lot of cleanup over in that area. And we kind of worked our way to West Columbia right now to get a look here. You can see this large tree in the roadway. This is what people are dealing with, not being able to get out of their neighborhoods or have to find another way out. Where we were in Lake Jackson earlier, there were just people who were stuck on the second floor of an apartment complex because a tree had come down on the stairwell. And I yelled out to see if they were okay. They said they were fine. They were just stuck. But, here's the thing. If you're stuck, it's not the worst place to be, even if you don't have power. It's just that, these roadways are such a mess, especially from what we saw in Lake Jackson. It's just, it's not advised for you to be out here driving. I understand people want to step out and get some fresh air, but to actually get on the roadways, not the best idea, especially with the amount of downed power lines that we've seen.
It just seems like if it's not flooded, it's trees, big trees down, and debris on the road. It's one or the other, it seems, Chelsea. These trees are big that came down in this area that you're in.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, talking about these neighborhoods that have been here for so long, and you can imagine just these trees have been here decades, and this Category 1 hurricane brought them down. I mean, we've been seeing trees uprooted, snapped in half, not just a few limbs missing, but just taken down entirely. So people have their work cut out for them out here.
And in the coming hours, we're certainly going to see communities coming together as folks are going to be helping each other out, trying to cut down those limbs and try to recover in their individual communities and also help their neighbor.
You can tell the wind's even completely gone over there right now.
Our viewing area in Southeast Texas. Chelsea, be safe out there. Thank you so much for your continued efforts on the roads. We'll check back in with you here in a couple of minutes.
Thanks, Chelsea. Well, one of the most remarkable things about this storm was that the eye, when it was still a hurricane, it dropped down to a tropical storm now, went right through Houston and went right through downtown, which is so crazy. That hasn't happened here in quite some time. And that's where we're going to find our reporter, Jade Fleury. She's live on Commerce Street downtown to give us a look at what conditions are like there and what's happening there at this point. Jade.
Yeah, you guys, we're right here by Buffalo Bayou, and as most people know from Houston, any other day you'd be able to just walk down to the bayou, but this thing is out of its banks. You can see a light pole literally submerged in water along with a trash can, and right here we have a storm drain that is overflowing and spewing water out into the roadway. It's been blocked off by markers over there. And then even further down, you can see Buffalo Bayou out of its banks, covering up this roadway right here as well. And the water is even going into this building. I believe that's a law office. And it's entered, it's flooding the place. Obviously, you can see a couple people walking. People are out and about right now, kind of checking out and surveying the damage. But this is an excess amount of water that we're seeing in the area. I haven't seen anything else like this downtown. We're still kind of surveying the area. But right now, this is the most intense portion, this Buffalo Bayou overflowing.
All right, Jay, thank you so much. Continue to survey that area for us downtown, and we'll check back in with you momentarily, get another look at what's happening down there. And you got to think, right, when you think about downtown, that derecho that we had a couple of weeks ago feels like yesterday. It left a lot of damage downtown.
And there was still a main road closed down there because they were fixing all of the damage that had happened to those buildings as that wind gusted through. That must have been a really scary situation, or even thought for those people that went through all of that just a couple weeks ago. It seems like we were just hit with that storm, and now we are here, which is so crazy. But we do want to bring in our morning anchor, Sally, who's been out near the Harwin Drive area in Houston, giving us a look at what's happening there. Some major flooding over that way, Sally.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, the biggest change since we last saw you, Caroline and Anthony, is there are so many more people out and about taking a look around, just trying to get somewhere. I don't know where though. So folks right now, they see that this intersection is flooded here in
A
Hillcrest
little bit
and
more
Harwin.
gusty
So they're
wind there.
coming down here in this parking lot, and then they're trying to get through down here. Well, then they're stalling out in the water down there. So that's a brand new car that we just saw stall out there in the water. This Suburban thought, well, hey, maybe I'll give it a try. They just turned around. The Range Rover did the same thing. I'm not going to chance it. And now look right here at these folks here clearing out debris in the water. This guy in the navy blue and red shirt in the blue vehicle just drove into this high water here. These are Good Samaritans now who are helping him out, going to try to push his car up here onto the parking lot. What people don't understand is just how deep this water is. If you cannot see the roadway below, if you don't see the white line, not a good idea to drive into it. And not only that, but you're dealing with debris in the roadway as well. We've been watching for 4 hours now as signs have blown into the flooded roadway. We've seen pieces of roofs from the strip center blow into the roadway. And so this is just a very dangerous situation out here. But thankfully, we've got some really nice folks who are helping this driver out. Oh, gosh.
It's
Yeah,
heavy.
he's losing his footing because he's in slides there.
All that water
This is
inside.
a very, very difficult situation as they're trying to get this car up on to the parking lot here. A lot of these folks have come out to help another driver who just got stranded. And
Gonna
they
roll
stuck
back.
around now to help this
Come on,
guy
bud.
as well. Looks like it's been able to get his car up, and now he's going to have to wait for a tow truck here to
Get
get
it
it
on flat ground,
completely
dude.
out of the way. I will say the one good thing that has happened out here is the rain has stopped.
So you're just
The
blocking the
wind
driveway
has
now. Get it on
definitely
flat ground
died
out of the way.
down. We were seeing some pretty nasty wind gusts up until about 15 minutes or so ago, and it's not completely out of the way. We're still seeing some, strong, I would say like 20 to 30 mile per hour wind gusts out here. But this is the best Estonians, right? When we see people coming out to help one another, people they don't even know, and they are willing to put, their lives at risk to help others. I will also say that this is a very international community. A lot of different languages are spoken over here at Harwin and Hillcroft. And so I wonder, did people even realize what was happening? Were they getting information correctly? And maybe this was their first storm that they've ever experienced here in Houston, and they just did not realize how quickly conditions can change. But the message from the mayor, as we heard, if you were tuning in about 30 minutes or so ago, is stay where you are, shelter in place a little bit longer out here. We just saw right before you came to us, we saw fire trucks going by. First responders are having to put their lives at risk right now to help people who drive into these flooded roadways. And so we want to keep our first responders clear to respond to the biggest emergencies out there right now. So do your part, and first responders will have a much easier job at doing their part. Just listen to some of the sounds out here, guys. This is this big awning that's been blowing down, and we're just hearing it crashing against this garage door. The rain is actually picking up again. I thought we were in the clear here, but here it goes again. Everybody just waiting for this thing to pass through so that they can get out safely to look around.
My goodness, Sally, I thought that, things were easing up because we saw you much earlier today struggling with standing out there and not getting blown over. Now it looks like that wind's picking up again, and that area is looking just so flooded. I can't believe they got that car out of there with that group effort. But Sally, in the elements for us today, it's just crazy what you're showing us.
Wow. Yeah, look at that. Right. And usually I can maintain my footing pretty well, but these gusts are still like no joke out here. And I just look around and see how many people are still out here, driving around. Down power lines and high water rescues are the #1 priorities right now. So if you can stay where you are, help those first responders out. I'm sure they'd appreciate it.
All right, Sally, we appreciate you on Hillcroft and Harwin there. Please be careful. Get back safe.
And really powerful to see, though, the community coming together, live TV, as they help that gentleman get out to that flooded portion of our city. All right, now let's head over to Galveston. We're going to
That was
continue
so
to check
strong.
in on our coastal communities, as they were the projected main impact of landfall, as Hurricane Beryl, a Category 1 at that time, made landfall in the southern coastal communities. And we're going to go to Galveston. Now, Jonathan Mejia right now is going to give us a look at what's happening down there. Jonathan.
Yeah, we were finally able to make it to Galveston after trying all morning to get here. But this is what we're seeing right now, just the storm surge. And this is what our meteorologists have been talking about all morning, the potential that we could be seeing here in Galveston and
That's
the Bay
not
Area.
bad,
Go ahead and
actually.
take a look. You're just seeing this water. This is all coming from the seawater because the wind is pushing it here inland. And we're seeing homes completely flooded, front yards and backyards here. And you can just tell by the movement of the water how fast it is moving here and how quickly it is growing. Now, we're seeing some parts that have receded, but we continue to just see the water here in this neighborhood continue to grow. And again, this is what our meteorologists were talking about, the storm surge. When there's wind, that water from the sea makes it inland. Now, another interesting we'd like to talk about is while we were driving on our way over here, we saw some of that storm surge all along the highway as we made it over here to Galveston. And unfortunately, that also impacts animals. We saw a lot of pelicans, flocks of pelicans there on the highway, and unfortunately some of them were injured, others got hit by a car, and unfortunately we just saw them, they're dead on the road. But this is what we're
Thanks for sharing that.
experiencing and seeing here in Galveston is just the storm surge, and we'll continue to make our way further into the island to bring you the latest on what's happening here on this coast. For now, reporting live in Galveston, Jonathan Mejia, Fox 26 News.
All right, Jonathan, thank you so much for that report.
I understand they have a job to do, and I get it. Obviously, sell commercials and show the worst stuff, which, I mean, it's interesting to see the worst stuff. But we're talking about a 6 to a 7 foot storm surge. I believe the average is between 4 and 6 feet storm surge. And the fact that those roads are all still passable with hardly any water, in many cases, not even on the street, that's pretty awesome. So Galveston was definitely spared. Let's look at this.
Stay inside. We're told he was with his family riding out the storm, and a tree came down. What can you tell us about what happened?
So like you said, he had actually hunkered down to try to ride out the storm with his family inside. And unfortunately, a large tree in the back of the home fell due to the high winds, landed on the roof, and his rafters came down on top of him and killed him in place as he sat in his couch in the middle of his home in the living area. The rest of the family was able to get out unharmed. However, the entire house is absolutely treacherous. It's standing water, debris, exposed nails, the entirety of the roof that's still above your head and standing could come down at any time. And we can't send deputies back inside. So the family is completely 100% stranded. They're at a relative's, a loved one's house, trying to ride out the rest of the storm.
And the other family members, including children, had to witness that?
There was yes, there were other family members, children, and at least one infant that
That's
I know
sad.
of. We had to go back inside to get I don't know his or her, but a formula because the stores are closed and they didn't have anything to feed the child.
This is just heartbreaking. And his wife was sitting right there in the room with him?
I can't confirm that. I actually I don't know for sure, but I do know that nobody but him was injured.
And even as we're talking right now, these winds have been picking up. There's one tree in particular that you guys are really concerned about that's in their front yard that you're concerned may come down also.
Well, this is an established neighborhood with a lot of very, very large and old trees, and we're having issues with downed trees across the whole of this side of the county right now, blocking public roadways, falling on homes, and causing a lot of problems. So these winds kicking up 60, 70, 80 miles an hour, any given tree at any given time could fall in any given direction. It's extremely hazardous.
And you're right about that. Just a few minutes ago, we were actually at the corner because the deputy told us not to stay on this side because of the trees. We were at the corner and a tree came crashing down. First, we were being pelted by branches and a tree came crashing down maybe 4 feet from where our vehicle was and where we were. We were trying to seek shelter in the hatch, behind the vehicle, but that tree came crashing down. What do you want to say to everyone who's trying to ride out the storm?
Well, first and foremost, if and when this happens again, try to leave, obviously, and for obvious reasons. But if you have to stay for whatever reason, just have enough emergency equipment, have some first aid equipment. Know that first responders may or may not be able to make it to you as quickly as you might hope, and be ready for anything.
Thank you so much for all you're doing to keep all of us safe. And he's telling us that we should probably get out of this area with all of the big trees, and we're certainly going to take heed. For now, we're in Humble. I'm Donnelly Keith, Fox 26 News.
It's heartbreaking.
Heartbreaking. It's so sad to see people doing what they're supposed to do. And obviously, as they were talking, family was in that house, and just thoughts and prayers with that family. And there was also another death that we reported, a similar situation that also happened in Harris County, where a tree fell and killed another person. And then there was a death that happened because of a fire. And unfortunately, this is just, the kind of middle of the storm. We still have a long way to go. So hopefully, this is the worst of it, but we'll keep you updated as time moves on.
And we're still doing assessments out there, but we definitely want to take a look at this radar, because Allison Gargara joining us now. And Allison, I live close to the Katy area, and at one point it seemed as though everything had passed, but it turns out I was kind of in the eye of it a little bit. It was kind of eerily quiet, and then on the back end, more rain.
It's a hurricane, bud.
It would be.
Hear me? Okay, good. Mic is on. But being in the eye of a storm is completely bizarre, just like you said, because you've just gone through what you think is the thick of it. And you look up, maybe there's some puffy clouds out there. Maybe there's a little bit of wind, but it's nothing like what you just went through. But the thing is that there's still a little bit more on the back end. Now, with Tropical Storm Beryl, we're still looking at tropical storm status with 65-mile-per-hour maximum sustained winds as of noon. So we got that latest advisory at 10 o'clock. But what we are seeing on the back end of this storm is not much. Really, the bulk of the rain and the winds is still off to the north and east, and this is likely going to be clearing out of our viewing area a bit later today. But here you go. So Houston, you've been pretty dry for quite some time. I know our reporter Jade Fleury is there, even Sally McDonald on the southwest side of town. Well, you can see that the back end of what is a very not well-defined eye, basically the center of the storm, if we can even still call it that, is starting to wrap in to Belleville. Now it's passing through I-10 into Katy, Sugar Land, and even starting to see some of that rain in Cypress. Now you can see the Woodlands in Conroe, Atascocita, Baytown, League City. You're pretty dry, but once again, we're not ruling out the chance to still see a few strong wind gusts. Definitely nothing compared to what we saw earlier, but we're definitely not out of the woods yet. Here we go into Houston, the Heights down to Bel Air, looking at that very light rain. You can see Conroe to Willis and even to Splendora. Not seeing much in the way of rain. All of it's out toward Cold Spring right now, into Shepherd, along 59 here, into Livingston. We have Onalaska and even Huntsville to New Waverly, right along I-45 there, seeing some of that heavy rain. But I definitely say the worst of it is now cleared out of a big chunk of the viewing area. We're not seeing anything in the way of rain from League City. Galveston, maybe a bit on the northern side of the island. Angleton, Lake Jackson, Bay City to El Campo, Wharton, Port Lavaca to Palacios. You're in the clear for at least the rain, but I'd say there's still going to be the chance for a few of those winds. But I want to talk about our bayou levels, because we have seen several locations now pop up to major flood stage, meaning that water is out of the banks and by a big margin. So we are looking at current height. White Oak Bayou, this is going to be at Houston, is currently at 38.51 feet. Now I want to take you over to Buffalo Bayou. This is going to be at Piney Point Village, and we are technically in minor flood stage, but I want to let you know the further south you go, I think a little bit longer it's going to take for those waters to really start to pick up into these bayous. Once again, water is going to be pretty high and moving. We're seeing that at Braze Bayou at Houston as well, technically in that minor flood stage at 41.46 feet. And I actually want to take you out to Braze Bayou. This is going to be at Gessner Drive. Now, the interesting thing is, from the last time I checked this, it was actually at minor flood stage, but it looks like it dropped just a bit. I would say we need to not look at that as a technicality. The water is still going to be high and likely in a lot of spots above its banks. So if you live along near any of these bayous, just know that we're likely still seeing flooded roadways. And then a lot of that's going to be ushering into these waterways. Now, lastly, I want to take you up. This is going to be Green's Bayou at Houston, and we are at moderate flood stage, but boy, are we ever so close to major flood stage. So once again, you need to be keeping an eye on these bayous. You know, if you live near them, you know, maybe you haven't seen this happen in a little bit, but just note that we're likely going to see this flooding continue as there are still flash flood warnings in effect till at least 1 o'clock. Wouldn't be surprised if maybe some of these are extended just because of the onslaught of rain that we have seen. Now, this is exactly where the storm, at least the east side of the storm, moved through. And, you know, if you were joining us last night and days past, we were talking about kind of the alleyway of where we'd see some of the heaviest rain. And, you know, it's almost spot on. From Angleton to Sugar Land, Houston, Atascocita, the Woodlands, Conroe, Cleveland, you can see basically the center corridor that was on that eastern or dirty side of the storm that has seen 8 to 11 inches in total. And, you know, some spots even had recorded rainfall totals of 14 plus inches. So these are radar estimated, but from Freeport to Lake Jackson, Angleton, about 7 to 9 inches. From Santa Fe to Alvin, Thompson's, even Liverpool, about 7 to 8 plus. We were seeing that widespread across portions of Harris County. And here's a look at some official rainfall totals coming down from the National Weather Service. Hillshire Village, 14.88 inches. Sugar Land, 13.32 inches. Brookside Village, more than 11 3/4 of an inch of rain. Friendswood, more than 10 inches, and Waller, more than 7. And some of these spots could have gotten a bit more rain, likely out in Waller from when we got the last report. And the thing is, we saw some very strong winds at State Highway 36 at Brazos, about 97-mile-per-hour wind gusts. So again, it was a singular gust, but still very strong. Houston University, 89-mile-per-hour wind gusts. Surfside Beach at 87. Hobby, 84. We showed that to you live on the air this morning. And Galveston had a peak wind gust reported at 78 miles per hour. So obviously very, very strong winds associated with this. I do think winds are going to start to clear off to the north. So like we've been talking about all day long, here's where basically the center is. Again, it's not super well defined at this time, but points south are looking at wind gusts much, much lower than what we've been seeing all morning, just about 20 to 25 miles per hour from Matagorda to Bay City and Wharton. But on the north and northeastern edge of the storm, we're still looking at some pretty strong wind gusts of 55 miles per hour right now in College Station, 56 in Huntsville, even down to Bush, Pearland at nearly 50-mile-per-hour winds. So it's still going to take a bit. You know, that center of the storm really needs to continue to move up toward Huntsville before we start to see any of those winds decreasing, I'd say down near Houston and then maybe just a bit north of that. So we're not out of the woods yet. Yes, the southern viewing area is really not seeing anything in the way of more rain, at least falling. Still, you know, some strong winds embedded within it, nothing compared to this morning, but please don't let your guard down. Always remember, turn it around, don't drown. It is not worth totaling your car just to drive through. Just hunker down, stay put. This storm is moving at about 10, 12 miles per hour at last check. So it will be out of here, we promise, by a little bit later this evening. But we just want to make sure everybody's staying safe and informed. We know the power is out and that a lot of folks are watching on our app or on our live stream. And we truly appreciate you sticking with us and that you trusted us to help you get through this storm. Again, not out of the woods yet, but things are improving, which is great news. Guys, we'll send it back to you at the desk.
Allison, thank you so much for that very informative update. We're going to continue this coverage after this quick commercial break, but stay with us. Much more to come as we continue to track Tropical Storm Beryl.
All right, guys, as you can see, things are starting to settle down quite a bit in Houston. I think because of the waters and possibly, and I hope this doesn't happen, but the overconfidence that the worst part is gone and that everything is good to get out. I personally don't see it a problem for people to get out. I don't like whenever these local people try to speak condescendingly to the local people out there, like the local officials speak condescendingly, like, help us do our job. Stay out, stay off the streets. You know, where I live, this is my house, this is my home. There are things that I've done during hurricanes that did expedite things. I didn't wait on somebody to come clear the trees in my yard. I didn't wait on somebody to come save me. I didn't wait on somebody to pull the garbage can out of the cross drain in the street that helped the flooding subside. I did those things, and my neighbors did. So to speak condescendingly like that, yeah, of course, I don't want to see grandma in her, Chrysler K car cruising down the street, pushing water in some cases in other people's houses or creating dangerous situations. But I don't think it's necessary to speak condescendingly. I think that most people who are responsible people know better. And most people, a lot of people, I should say, not most people, understand that they are their own first responders and that they are responsible for their own safety. You heard the mayor say earlier that they've had 300 to 400 911 calls and they've rescued 30 people. So they're not responding quite a bit. They're sitting back. I understand high water, but they do have high water vehicles. They're just not getting out in this stuff right now. Power outages, the last I heard, was 2.5 million in the Houston area without power. 3 dead. 2 of them were trees that fell on homes, and 1 of them was a house or a structure fire. 7-foot storm surge was the max, averaging 4 to 6 foot storm surge, which is not bad. And again, this hit during low tide, so not too bad. Let me go back to these people and their coverage.
Home as everyone continues to brace the impacts of Beryl. And I mean, just look at all of the flooding that we're seeing specifically in this neighborhood. This is the Country Club Estates, water overtaking this entire road here. It does seem passable at this moment, but it could get worse as we're still experiencing rain and high winds. Aside from flooding, though, we're seeing incredible damage due to those hurricane force winds. Beryl crumbling the wall of an entire apartment complex, displacing at least 40 people. The good news, though, is that not a single injury was reported, and it is something that Fort Bend County Judge KP George is thankful for.
We are absolutely happy to hear that because it is, everything we could bring together, the resources we could bring together, but the life lost is lost. And so we are extremely happy everybody's okay.
And aside from that, they are urging everyone to only call 911 if it's an emergency. The main reason being is that Richmond and Rosenberg's dispatches have been down due to power outages. All of those calls now going to Fort Bend County, so they're already inundated as it is. So they want to ask everyone to call 311 or only call 911 if it's an emergency. Reporting in Richmond, Shelby Rose, Fox 26 News.
All right, just a difficult situation every which way you look at it today, especially for people who are hunkering down at home who now do not have power. According to Centerpoint Energy, more than 2 million customers don't have power at this time. That's more than 2.1 million people. Luckily, it's not too hot like we normally see here in Houston right now. But of course, I'm always concerned about
It'll be hot as the blazes tomorrow.
Or need electricity for oxygen or something, and that's
or anything like that.
Babies. So it really can be a difficult situation. The Red Cross is on standby to help. The mayor did mention earlier that some of their sites where they can help people, they were without power and their generators weren't working. So it's really an issue that we're seeing across the whole city. So hopefully crews, well, we know that they are working to get this power restored, but really this is a lot of people without power. So I would anticipate being without power for a while.
Yeah, and a couple, just want to piggyback off some of that. In that press conference, the mayor held at around 11:30.
Be safe, Michael.
Also mentioned they have identified places like nursing homes or senior assisted living facilities that do not have power because the generator may not have worked. They have identified some of those locations, so they're going to be assisting there as well. He also mentioned Bark not having power because the generator didn't kick on. So there are individual situations happening across the city where the mayor, along with the fire chief, police chief, they're all trying to work together along with other city, county, and state leaders to try to rectify some of those situations here. Again, this is 288 here at 610 South. This is one of the areas that continue to see lots of flooding. I believe our Greg Grugan was there earlier today as well, giving us a look at what's happening there. But again, if you are at home, that is the safest place for you to be. The mayor continued to make that plea here for a lot of folks to stay home, because right now the main thing is life safety. Stay home. Make sure you're taking care of yourself and your family. Allow first responders to then focus on maybe some of the rescues that they have to do. And at some point, we're going to get into the recovery mode, and we're going to move past, of where we're at. But this look right now, Carolina.
Yeah, this is a live look now from Galveston that we are looking at, and this portion of this road has been flooded. If you know what road this is, let me know in my ear so I can update our viewers. But it's windy and it's flooding, and you could still see those raindrops coming down there. You can see how the wind is just blowing the water, making it into ripples. And then you still can see the yellow line in the road pretty far down. If you look, like, it doesn't really disappear, but still this type of water is really dangerous to be in, especially in your vehicle. That's still enough that it could take your vehicle away with it. So this is just a live look at Galveston as the flooding continues and the rain continues to fall, and many parts of our viewing area look like this right now. So this is where you really have to be careful when you're driving. Okay, you can see it's not that deep because you can see the stop there on the road, but again, it's still dangerous.
And Galveston, again, one of our coastal communities that we're expecting to be one of the main points of contact to get that initial round of rain, strong wind, and potentially even storm surge on those coastal communities from this Hurricane Beryl at the time of landfall. Right now, it is a tropical storm. But again, you can see folks at least heeding the warning. The streets are clear. No one seems to be on the streets. This looks to be emergency crews of some sort there. I can't really make out exactly what they're doing, but you can see emergency crews there in Galveston assisting or trying to remove
A barrier, maybe.
barrier of some sort.
If you look at the water on that truck, though, there, you see the white truck. You can see that water is up on the wheels quite a bit. So, I mean, the water is deep in some areas. It's flowing, and it looks like they're trying to remove a barrier, maybe.
Up a barrier because
Up a barrier, yeah, there we
going
go.
into that building. So we're trying to do our best to assess what's happening. Our producer's back. Where's Jonathan Mejia? I believe he was down there in Galveston. Is this his? He is in Galveston. Can we get him queued up here? Let's see if we get another idea of what's happening across that community. But again, Galveston, one of the areas, storm surge, part of the concern there. When you look at other places in Matagorda County as well, all places that were receiving the initial blow of Hurricane Beryl at the time of landfall.
That looks like they're in front of the railroad
Museum,
it says. So that's where this is taking place. It looks like they're putting up the barriers, probably
That's
because
exactly what it is.
it is so flooded at this point and the water is coming. If you look on the left side of your screen, there is another small vehicle. It is parked there. You cannot see under that vehicle because that water is so high. You cannot see under the vehicle. If you look at its wheels, you can see that that water is coming up about halfway to the middle of that. It looks like a silver or a white car's wheels there. Of course, the truck is a little bit more elevated. So the water is high in this area. And I was actually about to look up what street this is on. I could kind of see the street sign. It's the Railroad Museum in Galveston.
This area might be known as like the Strand a little bit. I'm not too sure. But that's definitely what's happening. As you can see, if you look at the building itself, you can see on the floor there are also some, it looks like bags, orange bags in front of the entrance to this museum. Obviously looking to, stop more of that water from going inside of that building. So that, and you also see the trash can on the bottom left-hand screen. Lots of flooding there next to that white car as well. This is Rosenberg Street, I believe it is. But if you guys know in the back, please let us get some clarity
Yes,
on what's
this
taking
is
place.
about, I think, at Santa Fe and Rosenberg
Yeah,
Street
I
in
think-
Galveston. Santa Fe and Rosenberg Street, which is not far from the coast. It's real close. You would just have to cross over Harborside Drive. So I do know that storm surge obviously is a big problem in Galveston when an event like this does happen. But these are, looks like, essential road workers here trying to put up a barrier as the flooding or the storm surge continues to make its way through Galveston. Man, it's and it looks like it's raining there again pretty hard, which is unfortunate because that's only going to add to our problems that we are seeing here. As we're watching this and as people are hunkering down in their homes, just a quick reminder from the Houston Fire Department. They are just warning you to be careful of generators. They do emit carbon monoxide. They're warning you to keep generators 20 feet from your home and place them in a well-ventilated outdoor area and avoid placing generators near doors, windows, or vents. So if you're watching this at home, if you do have a generator, please make sure it's in a safe area outside. We don't want anything happening like carbon monoxide poisoning. And they also, the Houston Fire Department, put out signs and symptoms of CO exposure, and that could include headaches, nausea, dizziness, chest pain, confusion, and blurred vision. So please, generators are meant to be 20 feet from your home outside because they do emit CO, carbon monoxide, and it can be deadly. So we don't want that to happen.
Yeah, and the county judge, Mark Henry, has been very vocal in communicating with the general public, letting folks know that there's going to be some issues here. And he's encouraging folks to stay off the road, saying that many of them are really, impossible. As you see some of that video unfolding there in real time on the Strand, on Rosenberg in Galveston, you can see the issues taking place. And there are also lights on Broadway that are out as well. That's part of that larger issue that we're having with lights being out across Southeast Texas and our viewing area. More than 2.1 million customers, according to CenterPoint Energy. But I also want to say, in that same breath, I want to say about 430,000 customers have also been restored in the last 24 hours. Now, I do want to let you guys know we're still trying to get some more information from CenterPoint because I'm really thinking about those transmitters, those larger towers. They are somewhat the highways, if you will, to get that power and electricity from point A to point B. And after that derecho we experienced, a lot of those transmitters had to go through repairs. So it's interesting to see. I would be interested to see how those transmitters are holding up here because we're still getting some strong gusts of wind. At one point, I believe they were up to about 90 miles per hour. So
wow.
Let's go over to meteorologist Mike.
Yeah, let's check in on the conditions out there. Hi, Mike.
Yeah, hey. Great point there, Caroline, about that the storm surge flooding down on Galveston Island. This has been a very frequent problem in that area around the Strand district, which of course is a historic area down there on the island, and it has to do with storm surge. Absolutely, that comes in from the bay side. So I'll show you what's happening down there and why it will gradually improve, which is good. So here's a close-up view of Galveston Island, basically the east side of Galveston Island. So here's East Beach. This is Stewart Beach here. This is actually the port of Galveston and where the cruise ships park and all of that stuff. But this is all connected to the Gulf of Mexico. So when the storm surge comes in, it raises the water levels here. The front of the island is protected by a seawall that went up after the Great Galveston Hurricane of 1900, but the back of the island isn't. And so when a storm surge forms back here, it goes into the low-lying areas like Harborside Drive and ends up flooding the Strand. And this is because it actually flooded with Hurricane Alberto, or Tropical Storm Alberto, last month. So it's been happening pretty frequently. All right, so here's some good news. We have been the winds with this system. The intensity of the winds and how long they've been lasting is really remarkable, especially considering that the center of the circulation now is way up there, heading into southern parts of
Walker County, northern Montgomery County, we still do have some pretty strong sustained winds. So, for example, Hobby Airport is getting a south wind at 37, Bush Intercontinental a south wind at 28. Embedded within that, though, there are still some gusts above 50 miles per hour right in Houston. If you're watching us from the Lake Livingston area, watch for flooding. This is some really heavy stuff that's coming down from Livingston up to Corrigan and then up to around Trinity and Groveton. And off here to the east, we're going to keep an eye out for this. Sometimes you can get little spinners or some short-lived small tornadoes out of these outermost rain bands. So something to pay attention to for those of you from Crystal Beach and then all the way inland up into Liberty County. But for the most part, I got to say things have improved dramatically, obviously from where they were before. I mean, just look how that system Beryl has begun to move pretty quickly off toward the north and taken most of the intense rainfall with it. There still is some rain wrapping around what we would call the backside of it or the dry side of the circulation. But considering the incredible rainfall that we had down in Brazoria County and Matagorda County earlier this morning, boy, it's really a godsend that finally you're getting a little bit of a break. Still seeing a little bit of rain coming down in Katy, but the thing is, it's the wind, right? I mean, it's still whipping around out there when these little squalls come through. A few warnings you still need to know about. So a flash flood warning has now been extended for the city of Houston through 1. We'll see if it gets extended beyond that. And it's not even because of the additional rain that's coming in. It's just that a lot of the bayous are filling up. We've been keeping an eye on, for example, on White Oak Bayou, which is right at bank level, and lots of others as well. And also, as I explained earlier, a lot of that had to do with the storm surge that came in, pushes water up the Houston Ship Channel, and then prevents Buffalo Bayou and White Oak and the San Jacinto River from draining, really. So that does lead to some river flooding sometimes, too. We also have a flash flood warning that continues for Spring, the Woodlands, Humble, and back over to around Mont Belvieu. So that just means please stay put. I know that it's starting to clear out a little bit. It's starting to feel like maybe we've seen the end of it, but there still are hazards out there, mostly with the flooding and then, of course, down trees, down power lines and things like that. At the same time, you know what's pretty wild? You know that for several days, Corpus Christi was preparing for a landfall from a hurricane, right? Well, they did not get it. What they do have is a heat advisory today, which I just thought was ironic. Down here in Brazoria County, I also want to let you guys know that because of all the heavy rain that fell earlier this morning, there still is an advisory for you. This is called an aerial flood warning. It's different from a flash flood warning. You know, flash flood would mean roaring water, you know. This is sort of like stagnant flooding that's not draining quickly enough. So a lot of the roads are still going to be impassable, or at least, you know, to have a pretty good amount of water on them. The creeks and streams and so forth down there are still running very high. So I would definitely urge you to still stay put in Bay City, back over to West Columbia, the Angleton, Lake Jackson, Freeport area. It's probably still not safe to really be out there driving around unless it's an absolute emergency, because there's going to be a lot of debris out there as well. Here's a look at the satellite view. There's actually a hint of maybe a little bit of sun breaking its way through the clouds. Not a lot of it, but you could see a temporary appearance of the sun. Here's the infrared satellite view. And what we have finally seen here is we've seen bright, intense, sort of dark red and pink colors that indicate really tall clouds, really deep convection, heavy rain, and high. Seeing that finally start to dissipate as the system moves to the north. That being said, there's a lot of momentum. It's sort of like, you know, if you roll a bowling ball, it's going to keep going for a long time because of inertia, right? When you get these things ramped up, even though it's cut off from its supply of energy over the Gulf of Mexico, it still has a lot of momentum to spin around. And so it takes a long time sometimes for these winds to die down. And that's exactly what's happening with this one, even though there are definitely signs here that it's beginning to subside a little bit. Too slowly, though. Here's a look at our futurecast wind gusts. So this is our graph computer model that'll give us a rough idea of what to expect as far as gusty winds for the rest of the day today. So this is right now. We'll look ahead in time here and pause this at 2 p.m. today, when we still have definitely some gusty conditions, but not nearly as bad in Houston. Sugar Land, maybe about 25 miles an hour. Houston, about maybe 30 to 35 miles per hour. Focus shifts to the north, places like Cleveland and Livingston and maybe Huntsville, getting those wind gusts to about 45 or 50 miles per hour.
By 3:30, as the storm continues to move to the north, the winds become more manageable. And then as we head toward 5 o'clock today, we're looking for some more ordinary feeling wind gusts of maybe 10 to 20 miles per hour. And then we should calm down quite a bit overnight tonight. And the great news is that in the extended forecast, we should be heading toward pretty tranquil conditions, I think, for the most part tomorrow and possibly Wednesday. We still have a zillion warnings out there, including a tornado warning that actually is in effect there to the north of Beaumont. Still have flood watches around for areas north of Houston and tornado watches up here for this region. So let me walk you through your future cast here, where we're going, like I said, improving conditions very gradually heading into the afternoon. Not impossible that some of you might see the sun at some point this afternoon. So obviously that'll be a very welcome sight. And then tomorrow, a slight chance here that maybe we catch the tail end of a trailing rain band. Sometimes the models don't see this. Right now, I'll tell you, the vast majority of our computer models are showing us a dry day tomorrow. I'm a little cautious. I just don't want you to completely let your guard down. You see how there's a little bit of rain over there by San Antonio. Sometimes there may be a rain band that kind of sets up maybe along the coastline. So just keep that in mind. But for the most part, it actually does look like we're going to see very much improving conditions tomorrow. So following the passage of the tropical storm and still 30 to 50 mile per hour winds in many spots for the next couple of hours, we'll transition to hotter conditions with lower rain chances of only 20 to 30%. Guys, this is a concern because, look, we still have, I think, 2 million or so customers without power. I think what Rashi's over there now, huh? So I guess, do we have Rashi and Anthony?
We're good. We're good.
Okay, it's Rashi and Anthony now. Rashi, hi, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Mike.
The bad thing is, and this is actually going to be a difficult hardship for a lot of people, no electricity, right? We have 2 million customers without power, and we're looking at high temperatures back in the 90s tomorrow and probably Wednesday as well. So today we're kind of getting by without, having to worry too much about it because it's not hot out at all. But tomorrow it will be, and the next day and the next. And so the quicker we can get everybody's electricity back online, I say we, like I have anything to do with it, but I mean, the faster the CenterPoint can get everybody back online and Entergy, the better, because it's a bad situation to have nobody with air conditioning and highs near 93.
Certainly a recipe for disaster, but we do know that the mayor saying earlier today as well in the press conference, and even yesterday in preparation for all of this stuff, I believe it was about 2,500 linemen that are going to be coming into the community, and as they have in the past, assist in this recovery effort to get that energy and those electrical lines, reconnected.
And that really was the biggest concern yesterday. Also, obviously, there's the high wind and then the flooding because we were expecting 5 to 10 inches of rain. So we do know with our streets, there's a lot of flooding that happens very quickly. Just because of the storm drains and all of that. But the wind is what was so concerning, which is why we have those down power lines. And yesterday, Judge Lina Hidalgo held a press conference. It was around 8 o'clock, and she was saying how CenterPoint is prepared, and they're actually getting teams from other parts of the area to have those resources out there. Also, when we spoke with Acting Governor Dan Patrick, he was saying that those resources are out there too for those water rescues, which clearly, unfortunately, we have to use those resources because people are out there on the roadways. And as I was coming into work, there was just so much debris everywhere.
Yes.
And because you might be in an area where there might not be debris, but the problem is that the signal lights are out. So that poses another danger. So there were some times that people were just going straight through the signal light because, the power is out. But just branches, tree limbs everywhere, fences. It's a bad situation out there. So until the emergency crews are able to clear it all up, it's just not a good idea.
Yeah, just hunker down, folks. So a little while longer, as Mike stated in his forecast, as you can see behind us even, it's starting to move out, but we're not in the clear yet. This is still a very dangerous tropical storm. I want to make sure everyone is safe. Let's give you one last look here at this update on the CenterPoint Energy and what we're seeing out there in terms of total number of power outages. And again, we have crews on standby that are going to be going into the community once this storm moves out entirely to restore power to so many folks that are out there. I do want to note as well, the mayor mentioned that they have identified places like nursing homes, assisted living facilities. Mike was mentioning how we're going to be in the 90s, for the foreseeable future, next couple of days. So the city has identified places that they're going to be working with to try to restore power to, so those folks can get that air they need, especially our senior citizens in our community. Again, this is that map I was just mentioning, 2.1 million customers without power. I do want to also note about 300 and what is that?
390, almost 400,000.
Around 400,000 folks already getting their power restored. But this is going to be something that's going to change.
Right.
These numbers are going to fluctuate here in the next couple of hours and the days ahead.
The good news is that once they are able to clear the debris and actually get out to the sites there, then those numbers start decreasing rapidly in terms of getting all of that power back. So that's a lot. That's the silver lining.
And hopefully it's not like the derecho. When we had the derecho a couple of weeks ago, even though it feels like it was yesterday.
Right.
When the derecho came through, it really damaged a lot of those transmitters. So I'm hoping with this system here, the winds weren't strong enough to do that. Maybe we get some electrical power lines down, but not the transmitters, because once those transmitters are down and they have to restore those, that's going to take even more time for them to get that power restored to the folks that need it.
Definitely.
So we're going to continue to see if we can get some more updates from CenterPoint, because I would love to get an idea of how many transmitters, if any at all, were severely injured, because that can add some time to when that power will be stored.
And that's the biggest question that so many people have, is when is my power going to be back on? And really, the CenterPoint information that we provide you is the only information that we currently have, because we do know that the crews are out there right now working diligently to make sure that they're able to put that power back up as soon as they can, safely for the crew workers as well, because there's also so much water. And, Anthony, one of the big things with water and all of this flooding is you don't know what's inside of the water. And, there's snakes, there's all kinds of things. I mean, even alligators, you don't know, because there's just so many feet of water at some spots. And some locations, very low lying, can really cause a lot of damage to your cars. And some people do take that chance to go through it, and then they get stuck, like we've shown on our broadcast.
And earlier today we were watching Sally Mack. She was out there live with TV, giving us an understanding of what was happening on the roads. And I believe she was at, let me check my notes here, Harwin and the Beltway. And literally, this guy gets stuck in the water, and about 7, 8 Good Samaritans, they run over in the water, just try to get him out. And we watched that all unfold on live TV. But again, if you see that water, we say it all the time, turn around, don't drown, because I'm sure we could pull up a TransStar camera right now to show you cars that are stuck in the water.
Yes, definitely. And a lot of debris on the roadway as well. Let's go to Fox 26's Coco Dominguez with the latest on what she is seeing.
Hey guys, so a lot of people are sending in videos. I want to kind of take a look right now. This is 610 Loop Feeder Road near 288. A lot of damage is still out there. We're going to see a lot of debris going by. We have a lot of high storms. If we can pull up some of those videos. But remember, be safe. Look at this. This looks a mess. Now, this is coming to us. This is actually from someone, I don't see the name, but it's completely down. This is areas you do not want to be. Look at all the down wires, such a dangerous area. Even to be driving by this area is super dangerous. Once again, this is 288 at 610 Loop. So that damage is there. Stay away, stay off of the roadways. I do want to go now to the Missouri City Sugarland area. Now, this is an area by a lake, and they initially had one boat. If we can go to that, then they have 2 more boats added. So they only have one boat, my friend Candy. Then 2 of the boats came on in. So people are not docking their boats properly. That is the mess that's happening. And she actually has a young daughter that she's making her wear a helmet in the home. You never know what's coming down, what's coming from everywhere. So a little different precaution, but a precaution nonetheless. There she is, kind of trying to take in some quiet time, but she is wearing a helmet in the home. You've seen some trees come down. You've seen some debris come out of nowhere, flying everywhere. A lot of things are still kind of up in the air. So just a different precaution. I've heard some people putting life jackets on their children, just different high water areas. And once again, you do want to stay off of those high water areas or stay away from the road, because you don't know. It really is block for block. Trust me, I've been through a lot of hurricanes. I'm from the Houston area. You don't know what's out there until it's a little bit too late to turn around. All right. Now, this is coming in from Megaphone, downtown Houston. This was at 9:13. And look at all of that wind just kind of going everywhere. The downtown area has already suffered a lot. Andrew Bender sending that in from the Houston area, and this is our megaphone. Please safely send those in. It looks like they are inside sending that in, but this is another one. You see the kind of winds going around the building. This was at 9:30 this morning, blowing off around the skyscrapers. That is from Bryce Donovan in Houston, sending in these photos, these videos. Thank you so much for sending that in. But this is not too long ago. I mean, what time is it now? Just a few hours ago, this was the situation. So imagine how many trees are down in the downtown area. Just stay where you are. That is the best precaution. And now we're going to look at another shot, down trees at the river plantation, and a lot of down trees everywhere throughout the entire city. This is really a dangerous situation right here. And there are cars everywhere. I know some people are losing power. You want to go to your car, you want to charge your phone, but sometimes that is not the best option. You know, kind of power your phone off until you need it is my recommendation. Find all of the avenues, whether it's online, whether it's social media, I mean, your phone service. There are a lot of ways to try and get some help, but these are two vehicles just crushed by the trees, 3 trees down in this river plantation area. Very dangerous situation. You don't want to be in the cars. And some of the trees, you see them outside. Oh, the tree's fine. You don't know how sensitive they are and how much damage they've taken on. Maybe, you know, there are a lot of, we saw Sally out there and Dominique earlier, where you see trees that are getting ready to come down. So people are saying stay out of the area as best as you can. Now, I do want to show you another video here. Now, this is coming from Brandon Scott at Greenway Plaza, not too far from here in the Houston. Oh, we don't have it yet, but we'll pull that up. I'll just tell you, a bunch of windows, a lot of the glass windows, the rotating windows at Greenway Plaza, I believe it's 24 Greenway Plaza, the winds have completely knocked down this glass, and this is just not too long ago. So the danger is still out there. I know we say turn around, don't drown, and some people think, I'm not going to drown in this water. It's not just you, it's your vehicle. When you get trapped in your vehicle, it could be you, because the water is continuing to rise in some areas. It's pretty bad in some areas. Some areas are still getting hit hard. And if you get caught in that water, even though the water could be small, you're not going to be able to pull those windows down. The electricity, everything could go out once your car kind of gets wet. And then there's the whole situation with your car in danger. You know, who's going to pick up your car? Where do you leave it? All of those precautions. There's a lot to heed out there. I know it looks, you know, things are getting better. Like they said, we might see some sunshine. So it's going to trick you a little bit to think that it is safe to go around the corner, but there are down trees, there are down wires, there are flooded areas that you may not be able to make it back home, because it is one block at a time. These trees are blocking the entire area. You definitely don't want to try to move the trees out of the way. Some people think, oh, it's a few branches. You don't want to do that. And thank you to everyone also who is continuing to send us all of their video. We will post those, and you guys stay safe out there. Back to you guys.
All right, we're joined by meteorologist Mike Iskovitz. Mike, you know, one of the big things that we were talking about yesterday was the fact that it was a tropical storm and it hadn't upgraded to a hurricane, but really it doesn't make a difference when it comes to the damage that the wind and the rain can make.
That's an excellent point, because, you know, it was downgraded to a tropical storm this morning, and it was still creating 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts. And we're getting a lot of reports, and people are sharing a lot of pictures with me of trees down, big trees down. And part of that is that this was a pretty rare occurrence, that these gusty winds made it pretty far inland. Places like Kingwood, for example, where there are a lot of trees, a lot of very, very, very small trees that came down. A lot of them really did. And so it's a scary sight out there. And kind of just what Coco was just mentioning, you know, maybe the sun peeks out and you think, oh, everything's okay, you know, it's done. There are a lot of hazards still out there. I mean, there's going to be debris. Oh, I guess my mic is not open apparently, so I'll let you guys toss the shade, they say.
All right. So let's get a look at the bayous. You know, yesterday they were talking about they will likely flood. So the waters will rise. So let's go to Jade, who's at White Oak Bayou, with some more details on that. Jade.
Yeah, we're here near the heights, and the rain and the wind gusts are back. But let's take a look at White Oak Bayou here. It is out of its banks, just like Buffalo Bayou was. But this one is almost close to the street, Stoodwood Street. It's almost close enough touching the street. If the water gets any higher, it may just flood this street here. Also, take a look down this way, down Stoodwood. The water has flooded the underpass here, and that is why officials are asking people to turn around, don't drown. These are the conditions on the Houston streets. You can kind of see how high it is based off that light pole over there, and I would say at least 7-8 feet underneath there. And again, we've also seen huge street signs. I'm talking the ones that tell you to exit. Those are lying on the interstates as well. So these are just some of the elements of why people are saying to hunker down and avoid this storm. Back to you guys in the studio.
All right, Jay, thank you so much. And that's just one of the many bayous here in the Bayou City where we're expecting some of those water levels to rise, Jade, at White Oak Bayou, but also Braze Bayou, Buffalo Bayou. We had our Greg Rugen who was at Braze Bayou earlier today. The water really high as well. Jade, thank you so much. We're going to check back with Jade and all of our other reporters throughout the area. And, you know, the mayor really, they knew this was coming. You know, the type of rainfall we're going to see here, Mike, that rainfall, some areas 10+ inches of rain.
Yes, 10 inches of rain. This 288 issue has seemingly been going on. Well, you grew up here. It's been seemingly going on forever.
Right.
And I have, remember so many floods, some recent, some in the past, where that area like McGregor and 288 or 610 and 288, the freeway completely floods. It happened again today. We had a very dramatic water rescue that had to take place. It is there. It's loaded with hazards out there right now. You know what I mean? And earlier this morning, we had a tractor trailer that turned over on the Beltway on the west side of the belt. I haven't heard confirmed it was from high winds. It probably was. I don't know. There were a lot of people on the road. Way more people than you would expect to be out on the road in the dark during a hurricane.
Right.
And everybody was just taking a lot of chances. So I think right now, you know, it's another lesson learned, you know, that we have to get the word out there about keeping everybody safe and, you know, hunker down and stay put at home unless it's an absolute emergency.
And I know you've been doing this for a while. I mean, there's no other word to describe it other than crazy, is it, that you have hurricanes this early, this intense, and affecting us in the way that it is.
This one is going down in the record books because it was the earliest Category 4 to form. It was the earliest Category 5 to form. It set a record for the strongest June storm on record, the strongest July storm on record. Made 3 landfalls, actually. One in the Caribbean, one in the Yucatan, and then another one here in Texas. It also opened up, I think, some vulnerabilities even in our best forecasting model. I mean, the technology we have now is amazing. I mean, they literally have supercomputers that are feeding in millions of pieces of data. And they didn't do a fantastic job, really, because, you know, for the longest time, the storm really looked like it was going to cross the Yucatan and move into Mexico or maybe deep South Texas. And it just, with every new update, it kept going farther and farther. Even that being said, though, we did have some notice. You know what I mean? It wasn't like a totally last second thing, but it wasn't like we had days and days and days to prepare for it. So I think it's a wake-up call for everybody that we live in a vulnerable area. You know, it's great to live here in Houston. It's great to live in Galveston. But one of the trade-offs for living on the Gulf Coast is that you get these storms that come along once or twice a year, hopefully only once, you know, a year. And look, I mean, you'll see what's happening out there.
That is interesting for you to kind of provide that context, is based on your expertise. Because I think for myself included, someone who just moved here to Houston, my first time experiencing a hurricane, there's tons of people that moved to the city and this is their first time experiencing something like this. But to hear you say clearly, like, this did not pan out to some degree, like, you know, the information wasn't that great. That's interesting.
You know, it's kind of like, so you grew up in New Jersey, okay? So meteorologists there will have to predict like how many inches of snow, you know? So you think there's going to be, let's say 6 to 8 inches of snow, and then you end up getting, I don't know, a foot of snow or something like that. And it makes a big difference. And they are just, but you know that you have to be prepared for a snowstorm. So the cities go out and they salt the roads and they get the snow plows, whatever it is. I've never lived up north, you could tell. But it's the same thing here. You always have to prepare. You hope for the best and prepare for the worst. It's better to be over-prepared than under-prepared. And it's also better to be cautious when it comes to taking chances. Look, I'm not going to like BS anything. I'm going to try to leave work when I can. I would love to drive home. You know, my family's home. We have no electricity. I can't even talk to them on the phone because they have no cell service. I mean, I would like to get home, you know, and be with everybody. But even then, I'm going to have to wait until I know that I've checked all the sources that I have to make sure that there is a safe way home. You know what I mean? But
we're not immune to it.
No, nobody is. And so, you know, so let me just get this across too. There are some hazards that we need to be aware of that you wouldn't even think of. One is electricity. During Hurricane Harvey, and even before that, even going all the way back to Hurricane Allison, or Tropical Storm Allison in 2001, people died of electrocution. You don't think about that. You think, oh, maybe trees are a hazard or the wind's going to blow my roof off. People died of electrocutions. The power's out now, right? And so when the power comes back on, boom, everything, you know, the power comes right into your house. If your house is flooded, if people do have homes that are flooded, all of a sudden that can energize things, and you go to grab something and you could, people have died that way. Also, there are things you might not think about, like traffic accidents. If the power is out and if you come to a intersection where the lights aren't even flashing, it's just completely blank. A lot of people don't know you're supposed to treat it as a four-way stop. We have to be patient, stop, look both ways, be courteous. But that doesn't always happen. And a lot of times somebody will just zoom through it and boom, you have a collision there. There was, this is going off maybe on a tangent, but I hope it's educational. There was a study that was done in Florida after they had 9 tropical systems that hit between 2004 and 2005. They looked at all of the fatalities that happened. Half the fatalities happened after the storm. So, and it came from things like people having a heart attack cleaning things up. It's hot outside, you're upset, you're picking things up, you're cleaning up trees, you're out there with a chainsaw. Literally, that happens. Accidents, you know, people get lacerations from, you know, carport roofs, you know, there's a lot of hazards out there. Not to scare you, but I'm just saying, you wouldn't believe the kind of stuff that gets thrown around when you have 70, 80 mile per hour winds. So just take care of each other, be careful, take it slow. We just have a friend in the newsroom right now. He showed me a picture of a gigantic tree that came down over his swimming pool. And so we're like, okay, how are you going to get rid of that thing? I don't know. I mean, how long is it going to sit there? It's huge. And so, and that's just one person. So I imagine there's thousands of you out there right now that probably have these giant trees down all around your house. And of course you want to get rid of it. You know, you want to clean everything up as fast as you can, but just, you have to do it with caution. There's, you know, I try to keep everybody safe. You know, we can only do so much with the radar. You know what I mean? With the radar, we can show you, you know, what's happening and we can analyze it and do our meteorologist stuff. But a lot of it out there is just like regular human things that we just need to be careful of.
Yeah, we got that heat coming, 90-degree temperatures in the days ahead.
And it's going to get hot.
And then we also have a lot of cleanup as we start to process what took place here today. Mike, we'll get back to you here in a second, but we also have a phoner.
Yes, we do have on the phone with us right now with Galveston County Office of Emergency Management. We have the county judge, Mark Henry. Thank you so much for speaking with us. I know that we heard from you yesterday and you were telling everyone to hunker down, basically. What are you telling folks right now?
At this point, it looks like the storm has passed us for the most part. There's still some slight gusts, but nothing that should pose any danger. The problem we're going to have is that 73% of our county now has no power. So it's going to get uncomfortable. We expect a high in the mid-90s tomorrow. So if you have a cool place you can go stay, you might want to think about that, because we cannot give you any assurances the power is going to be restored anytime before probably the end of the weekend. So that's what.
And Mark, what are some of the challenges you guys have seen here in the last 24 hours?
The power being the big one. I don't think any of us anticipated 73% of the county being without power. And by the way, I'm raising my hand. I'm one of them. So we have no power at my house. And just having to plan for that. I've got 2 8-year-old girls, and trying to plan to have no power or do something with them and my wife is a bit of a challenge. And I'm sure there's hundreds, if not thousands, of others in that same boat with me around Galveston County and all over the region, really.
Yes, definitely. And one thing I was going to ask is, I know it's earlier on, but have you all been able to assess any damage that's been done?
The damage that we've seen so far has been what you would expect. Lots of down power lines, lots of broken power poles, lots of down trees, fences blown over. I have not personally seen anything other than one house on Galveston Island that is substantial damage to private property. So I think that what we have seen so far is really what you'd expect from the kinds of gusty winds we saw.
Yeah, and we also saw some video. We have crews down there in Galveston, and we saw one of our crews there in the Strand in that area, and we saw some street flooding. Any word on how that flooding may have gotten into some of those historic buildings there in that community?
We don't have any reports of damage from flooding yet. I know what you're talking about, and yes, some of those streets do flood, on a somewhat regular basis, but it's also going to drain off fairly quickly. So I would be surprised if there's still any standing floodwater on the streets. And we have put out a call to all municipalities. Let us know if you've got facility damage, because we have a certain dollar amount we've got to get to meet our state threshold for financial reimbursement. So we are actively seeking their input to let us know about damaged facilities or any kind of infrastructure.
How do you think that the residents did? I know that there were some voluntary evacuations and people were leaving their homes and then also staying put inside of their homes. So how do you think Galveston County did as a whole?
I think we did well. I think the people who were not comfortable staying went ahead and voluntarily evacuated. Those who have faith in their home structure decided to stay. I think at this point they might be reevaluating how long they stay. Again, because of no power, it's going to get uncomfortable, hot, sticky, and you're going to have a hard time cooking anything. So, and that's okay. And this is a good time to reassess and say, maybe I relocate to someplace further inland that's got power, and I'll be more comfortable for the next couple of days till power comes back on.
And just touch on some of the resources down there in Galveston County for folks.
I'm sorry, I missed that. What was
If
that?
you can, just touch on some of the resources available to folks down there in Galveston County.
Resources. We have a group called the Long-Term Recovery Group. We really encourage anyone who had damage to their home to contact them. They are a nonprofit who's kind of in the business of getting your house back up in good shape again after storm damage. They are a direct result of Hurricane Harvey. So that's a very good resource. And other than that, it kind of depends on what specifically they're needing. Cities will sometimes open up cooling centers to help them in the short term. I don't have a list of those cities yet who are going to do that, but we will get it. And most everything that we have available is at gcoem.org, Galveston County Office of Emergency Management.org.
I know you guys probably haven't shifted to that recovery effort entirely just yet, but any word on tomorrow? Any city buildings reopening? Are you guys going to try to get back to normal operations down there in the city?
I'm with the county, but yes, the county will be back to normal tomorrow. Short of, I have not heard of any county building sustaining damage that would prevent it from opening tomorrow. So unless I hear that on a specific building, Galveston County as a county government is back in business tomorrow.
All right. Is there anything else you would like to tell the residents out there?
Yes, we know that generators are a big deal, and we want to stress generator safety. Your garage is not a good place to put your generator because it emits carbon dioxide, as everyone knows. So just be careful about your generator. Don't refuel it while it's running. The usual safety stuff that unfortunately happens almost every time we have a lot of people running generators.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Galveston County Judge Mark Henry here live for us. Stay safe out there.
Bye.
All right, now let's go to our Randy Wallace, who is giving us another look at the Brazoria Bayou, one of the areas that we continue to see a lot of that rising water because of the rainfall we receive. Lots of portions of our viewing area getting anywhere from 12 to 13, 14, 15 inches of rain. Randy, what are you seeing down there in Brazoria Bayou?
I want to correct you real quick, Anthony. I'm not at Brazoria Bayou. I'm at White Oak Bayou, 610, TC Chester. And as you can see, the water is moving rapidly. Thankfully, it is still in its banks right now, but it is raining out here, so a lot more rain could change all of that. Now, back in 2001, during Tropical Storm Allison, White Oak Bayou came out of its banks and flooded an area called Timber Grove Manor, which is just farther down TC Jester, and that was what was called a 100-year flood. That area never flooded before, and everyone needs to kind of keep an eye out on White Oak Bayou and of course, all the bayous around the city, because that is a huge concern. Another thing we've noticed around here, again, we're in the 610 TC Jester area. There's no power. Most of the lights are out. A lot of traffic. People are driving around to kind of take a look at everything. There's a lot of downed trees in this area, a lot of them. But fortunately, we haven't seen a whole lot of street flooding. The street flooding is pretty much contained to TC Jester, like TC Jester 34th, and that area always has a tendency to flood when it rains. So again, the concern is White Oak Bayou staying in its banks, which right now it is, but if a lot of rain came along, it could change that. Back to you, Anthony.
All right, Randy Wallace, thank you so much for giving us that look there at White Oak Bayou here in the city.
All right, and now we want to turn it to Tom Ziska, who is now at a collapsed condominium over in the Montrose area. So, Tom, what is the situation like there?
Picture says 1,000 words. Take a look right here. This is a townhome on the McDuffie, which is near West Gray and Shepherd. And this happened later this morning, after 8 o'clock, as the storm was moving through, and the winds of Beryl grabbed the corner of this building and literally tore it away. That's a bedroom right there in the middle. The woman who lives there noticed that the ceilings were leaking, I'm told, around 8 o'clock this morning, and she got out with her cat, and then the building went kablooey, to put a fine point on it. Now, next door, there were some people staying in, and they were trapped by all of the debris. They had to call 911. 911 comes in and pulls a ladder up and lets them climb down because they can't use the door. There's so much debris. So additionally, this other unit to the left of your screen here, it also is damaged. Obviously, the ceiling is gone. The roof is gone. There are workers up and around. They're trying to tear down what they can. There's no sense of the full extent of the damage to the building and what will happen to it. We are thankful to report that no one was injured here, however. Just really, really scary. I'm told that just the sound of that roof and this corner of the building coming off in the wind was just monstrous. And fortunately, again, everybody is safe, but a lot of damage and a lot of belongings just left out to the elements because of what Beryl brought here. We're talking to these folks. We'll be able to share some of their comments later this afternoon at this point.
Tom, before you go, okay, Tom Ziska, thank you so much. All right, let's get to meteorologist Ramisha Shea for another update on this forecast. Ramisha?
Well, we have been dealing with the wrath of Beryl, of course, all morning long. Things got really, really bad, really dangerous, and we've got widespread damage. Of course, Beryl came in as a Category 1 hurricane, making landfall around 4 a.m. around Matagorda, and it has just been a mess out there. We're dealing with major flooding after several inches of rain, and we're also dealing, of course, with a ton of flooding, a lot of trees down, a lot of power outages. Of course, as we've been telling you, over 2 million people without power. You could see that eye wall rolling right over Katy, Sugar Land, and Houston as Beryl moved in from the south to the north, bringing all of that rain, and it is starting to pick up some speed and push off to the north and east. So I think the worst of this system is over, but it is going to take quite a while to clean up from all of the major damage that is left behind from this system. As I mentioned, Beryl did strengthen right around landfall, making landfall as a Category 1 hurricane. Of course, those are sustained wind speeds between 74 to 95 miles per hour. So on our Saffir-Simpson scale, that's a 1 out of 5, which is on the lower range. But as you can see, it doesn't take a Category 3, 4, or 5 major hurricane to do tons of damage. We've got a lot of you with large trees that have been uprooted, blown down. We've got power outages. And of course, we've got that increasing risk for that flooding with all of the rain that has come down. For many of you, between 6 to almost a foot of rain falling since last night and throughout today. I want to give you the latest with the track with Beryl, where it is heading and the strength, the current speed. At this point, we're looking at the latest advisory. This is the 1 p.m. advisory. It is down to 60 miles per hour, so it is still a tropical storm, no longer a hurricane, but it still packs a punch. It can still put out some very heavy rain, cause some flooding, and of course, it can still spin up tornadoes very quickly. So we're still going to have to monitor those storms that develop this afternoon for any type of rotation. At this point, though, as I said, 1 p.m., 60 miles per hour. It is going to likely pick up speed. Right now, tracking to the north-northeast at 14 miles per hour. It is going to be pushing close to the Tyler area as we go into this evening. So around 7 o'clock, getting close to Tyler, Texas. So the weather deteriorating for those folks. Then it's going to pick up even more speed as it gets picked up by a trough, and it's going to get carried out over into the state of Arkansas, most likely, as it continues to weaken. Then as we expand the view, you'll see that Beryl races all the way to the northeastern U.S. and even into Canada as we go through the rest of the week. But that means it's moving away from us, so that is a little bit of good news for us. The good thing is that this tropical system did not just sit here and just crank out round after round after round of tremendously heavy rain for several days. Of course, we've already gotten damage. That's bad enough, but at least we know that it is moving away. It could have been a whole lot worse. So we are thankful that at least it is moving north. It is moving away from us. And at least that super heavy rain and that extremely dangerous strong wind starting to subside for some of you. But here's a look at our radar. You can still see that counterclockwise circulation where we still have that eye wall between Huntsville to Conroe down to the Woodlands. You can see it circulating there. Of course, in the eye, you don't have much precip, but right around the eye, that's usually where you have those strongest rain bands and usually the strongest wind. So we still have some pretty gusty wind. We have some heavy rain, but at least for the Houston area, that rain is starting to get much lighter than it was for much of last night and this morning. So you can see some light showers across Harris County, Houston, the Heights area over towards Bel Air, but nothing severe at this point. Heaviest rain at this point situated up towards Trinity, Riverside, and over into the area just north of Onalaska. You can see some of those yellows and reds, and we do continue to monitor that. Some lighter rain as well back towards Brenham, but overall conditions are starting to improve. But I do want to quickly get to these bayous because they are still in minor to major flood stage, especially White Oak Bayou at Houston, major flood stage. So please, if you don't have to be out there on the streets, stay at home, do what you can to stay safe, but definitely avoid this area. All right, we're going to head back over to the news desk for more on the aftermath of Beryl.
All right. Thank you so much, Ramisha. Now, I understand that we do have Brazoria County Judge Matt Sebesta here with us on the phone. Thank you so much for being here. Can you hear us?
Yes, ma'am, I can.
And what are you seeing right now when it comes to just some initial evaluation of the damage that has been done?
We've got a lot of trees down, a lot of organic debris on the roads. Power lines are down. I've seen some traffic lights down. Power is out over most of the county. So we've got a lot of street signs I saw that were down as well. So we've had a lot of wind damage.
And how have you been dispersing the resources there in the county to try to rectify some of these issues you guys are seeing?
Well, the cities, they've got their crews out and about. They're clearing the city streets. TxDOT, my understanding, is they're sending crews in to work on their roadways. We had skeleton crews at all 4 of our county road and bridge offices last night, and as soon as it was safe to this morning, they are out and about on the roads right now. They are moving green debris and anything else, trees, what have you. They're moving it to the side of the road to make them passable.
And I know Brazoria County does include Lake Jackson, Freeport, and I know storm surge was also a big concern. So what are the effects you're seeing from the high storm surge?
The storm surge was fairly significant down at Quintana and on Follets Island, which includes the village of Surfside Beach, Blue Water Highway, which is County Road 257, which runs from the village of Surfside Beach down to Treasure Island, and the toll bridge that goes over to Galveston is impassable at this time. We had a lot of debris up on the road, but it is being cleared. I haven't talked to Mayor Bisso down at the village of Surfside Beach very recently, but they were looking for a high water vehicle earlier today to help get in and assess the damages that they've had. I know they had at least 3 homes destroyed from the wind, so they've had some damage down there.
Yeah, and I know we had those evacuation orders in place as well. Has the community heeded that warning? What is your understanding of how folks have been able to move out, or for the most part, did most of them stay?
You know, all of the RVs were able to get out, I believe. Those needed to be off the island. I think most of the folks that were probably down for the weekend renting property, I think they got out. And some of our locals probably relocated. And some of our locals are going to stay. They've been through these things before. So haven't heard of any major issues as of yet. But again, we're still assessing where we're at on things.
What about internet service down there?
Been spotty. We had some internet issues starting in the very early morning hours this morning, and so we have had some internet issues and some phone issues.
And what is the message that you want to get across right now to viewers who are listening, probably don't have power?
What I would say is, if you've got a generator, operate it safely. Don't get out and just ride around right now. Power's out. We have signage is down. We have some traffic lights that are down. None of the traffic lights are operational, at least here in Angleton and probably most of the places without power. So traffic control is an issue. And if people are just out and about, some people forget that when you get to a inoperable traffic light, that it becomes a stop sign. People forget that. And so the less people out and about while those traffic control measures are not in place, the better.
Any final thoughts?
Just everyone needs to be safe as we kick into recovery mode. Look out for those down power lines. Look out for those trees that may be in a precarious situation, and just be careful as you get out and about and take care of business recovering.
All right, Brazoria County Judge Matt Sebesta, thank you so much for joining us here, giving us that very valuable information to share with all of our viewers here today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And when we were talking to Mike Iskabitz a little bit earlier, he was saying how this is really just a wake-up call for so many people, because we are going to have a very active hurricane season. And even though this wasn't a hurricane until later on, even the Tropical Storm Beryl, producing a lot of heavy rain and wind gusts up to 70 miles per hour. So it really is a learning tool for us. I know personally, I think it was a good idea for me to stay closer to the station, which I haven't done before, but it was something that I learned from before, just staying off the roadways. And one thing that I think people do not realize is that we're not immune to all this either. So, you know, my family's dealing with no electricity. I'm sure yours is as well. Yes.
No electricity.
So we're all in it together, just trying to get through it. And the best thing to do is learn from whatever mistakes you might be making now, moving forward.
And, you know, we can't forget when Mike was here really filling for us and adding his context, to the weather. This system, earliest Hurricane 5 ever, earliest hurricane Category 4 ever, Category 5 ever. It made 3 different landfalls, and although it's a tropical storm now, it's still very dangerous.
Right.
This is the same system in the Caribbean that killed at least 11 people. Today in our community, we know at least, we're getting reports at least 3 people have passed. And again, we're still in what the mayor has dubbed the life safety mode, right? Everyone just hunkering down to try to remain safe as much as possible. And they haven't really switched into that recovery mode yet. They're still trying to rescue folks that are out there on the streets, trying to respond still to people who need generators throughout our city. So this is one of those things where I know it may seem like, we're in the clear, but not yet.
Right.
Just kind of sit tight. You might be a little antsy inside, but please sit tight for a little while longer. We're going to get you guys an update here on the forecast again, but it's still not safe to be outside.
Definitely. And it really is an opportunity also for everyone to help each other out. I know that there have been places where some homes might have electricity, so people have been coming just to charge their phones, something like that. And then just making sure that each other, they're okay. I know my sister called me. I was texting my mom with updates, and she was saying, oh, well, mommy's not getting text messages, so, you might want to call her. So it's just a good thing to keep everyone informed. The biggest concern we have right now, more than 2 million people without power. So you are not alone if you are not you don't have any power. If your signal is not great, that's also an issue. AT&T has been putting out alerts as well. So we know that cell phone signal and power, 2 main concerns, but you're not alone. But you do need to know that people are working to make sure they can restore it. The only issue is we don't have a timeline for that yet.
And that's the gray area, the timeline. We just don't know.
Right.
All we can do is just share with you the information that we're receiving from officials, and the bulk of that is just to stay home and shelter in place.
Yes.
We've been we getting from word from our producer. We got some videos here and some pictures sent in from you guys at home. And this is the same, whether you're in Brazoria County, Galveston, here in the city of Houston, or somewhere up north. The images are similar. Lots of down power lines, lots of flooding, lots of trees. And I believe this is video from our Greg Rubin, who was off 610 and 288. And look at that. This is probably one of the more devastating scenes I've seen. You see this mangled metal here just kind of wrapped around this power line.
And that becomes very dangerous because of the water and the electricity or lack thereof. We don't know. But that is also where people run into issues. You can see that there are stalled out vehicles. If you look more to the left side of your screen, you can see the hazard lights there. That truck doesn't look like it's stalled out, but it is trying to get through that water, which is unfortunately a chance that many people try to take. You can see that the white car there, sort of in the middle of your screen, is stalled out. We have a lot of stalled out vehicles there. And the unfortunate thing is that there aren't emergency crews, enough of them to get to you as soon as you would like. So if you are calling 911, then they are probably going to take a lot longer than anticipated. 288 has been another area which has been just flooded, and it has been for years. And Anthony, from as long as I could remember, every single time there would be a storm, it's like 288. Yep, all the areas that normally get flooded are flooded right now.
Yeah, some more flooding we are seeing across the city. I believe we're going to go to Fulshire with some more video here to show you guys some Fulshire flooding. This really is another testament to the strong winds. I believe Category 1, around more than 70 miles per hour winds. At the time this system made landfall, it was a hurricane. Right now, a tropical storm, but you can see how the wind is just pelting that rain. It almost, Melissa made a reference that really made sense to me earlier today. It kind of looks like a helicopter. It's just hovering over the area because the wind and the rain is just shifting so quickly because of this system. So thank you guys for sending in some of this video to us. And you were talking about 911 calls. The mayor just kind of urging folks, like, don't call 911 unless you absolutely have to, because he said at the time of the press conference at 11 o'clock, they got more than 400 calls for service in 911 in an hour.
Wow.
That is a lot. And, our crews are working hard to get to you, but the reality of it is, there's only so much you can do with the staff you have.
Right.
So if you want to report some issues in your community, 211 and 311, those are the numbers you want to call. Try to leave those 911 lines open unless you absolutely need it.
Definitely. And we have a lot of debris as well. We're getting some video in from the Post Oak area where you can see that those trees basically blocking roadways there. And this really is the site for a lot of the Houston area. Just broken branches, trees. Also saw garbage cans. I know for a lot of people, they put the garbage cans out because it's supposed to be garbage pickup day, but we were warning folks yesterday about bringing it back in. I know that Mayor John Whitmire was as well, and we saw some of those all over the place and down fences too. Vehicles had a lot of debris on them, and it looked like most of the area in the Galleria area, without electricity, people were just zipping by. And one big thing to remember if you must go out is the fact that when you don't have any of those signal lights working, it is a four-way stop sign.
And you know, when I pulled into the station earlier this morning at around 10 o'clock, that's what the station looked like pretty much.
Right.
There's a massive tree that fell earlier this morning in front of the station, and you could not get into our facility, into the building. Luckily, we have a second entrance, but our great engineer, Sammy, he went out there with the help of some other folks, and they were able to kind of hook up that tree and tow it away and pull it. But it took me an extra 10-15 minutes just being at the station like, hey, how can I get in? I can't get in. This tree is entirely too big.
Right.
And that's something that you continue to see all across the viewing area.
And that really is what the local leaders were saying, is to help each other out, especially during the cleanup process, the debris, the just helping each other with electricity. It really is a communal effort, and that's how we get through something like this.
Yeah, and there's a disaster declaration issued for so many different counties that are impacted by this system. And a disaster declaration essentially allows the mayor and other county leaders to expedite some of the resources that they're going to need here in the days to come. Because when you have this type of devastation, no one city can do it by themselves. The mayor even saying today the White House reached out, you know, so they're in constant communication with the acting governor right now, because the governor is away on business, but the active governor, Dan Patrick, he is involved. The White House has reached out, city, county leaders. It's all like a collaborative effort here to try to do the best we can to kind of usher us through this now tropical storm Beryl.
Yes, and I've been getting text messages from my friends about whether or not they have any updates on Centerpoint. Unfortunately, we do not have any updates. We just know how many people are without power. And I know from our live shots that we've been seeing, you've been seeing that crews are out as well, cleaning up, and people are just getting out of their homes, seeing what kind of damage is out there. So really it is an assessment phase. And unfortunately, it's not the news you want to hear, but we don't have a timeline of when that electricity is supposed to be back on.
And as soon as we find that out, trust me, we are going to let you know as soon as possible. We do want to let you guys see some more images of what's happening across our viewing area. This is a Love's gas station. You can see the top of that gas station completely bent, and this is a 18-wheeler on its side. Again, the wind gusts and the wind associated with this system, Category 1 when it made landfall, and that's anything 74 to about 95 miles per hour. So that's very strong winds that could just blow over an 18-wheeler like this. And we have some more pictures. You guys want to cycle through some of these together? There we go. Some more flooding. This is in Woodland Heights. And this is a video from a homeowner that's, look at that.
Wow. All that flooding inside already. Wow. And that's one of the homes that we're seeing inside. We had roof leaks as well. Some of my friends had roof leaks that they were looking at. Here's some more video that we're seeing, just high wind and the water there. And even if you got just several inches of rain, that caused enough for some flooding. So right here, obviously you're looking at very high winds and high flooding, because you see the fence there and it looks like a vehicle might have even been underneath that. This flooding that you're looking here from the Woodland Heights area of a home, and it looks like they have at least a foot of water inside, something that many people are experiencing, as well as that rainwater did get inside and their homes are flooded, probably trapped inside of there, and will need to be rescued. This is where I believe Tom Zisco was at, the condominium parts of it that just collapsed. Wow, you see that right there? It's a bed inside of that condominium, and I believe this is in the Montrose area. And something that happened earlier this morning, so it hasn't been that long, just because of those high winds. And when it is a hurricane, it was Category 1. That meant winds were 74 miles per hour or more, and we were clocking in about 80, 85 miles per hour. But still, I mean, it's all high wind, and it's causing a lot of damage out there. If we look at some more video that's been sent to us right here, you can see fences down. That's another issue that we're seeing, is fences down and also on the roadways, which is why it is very difficult to go out and get to certain places safely, which is why local leaders are saying to stay indoors and not be on the roadways, because that's where we need crews and emergency responders to be able to get from point A to point B. This right here is wind tossing some of the debris in Rocheron, that is. So you could see that a lot of debris there, and this looks like what was a trampoline and probably got tossed around. It's hard because you can't put the trampoline inside. I know that we said to get a lot of the furniture and everything inside, that you had lawn furniture, but some things you just can't put inside, and that is one of them. Again, we're looking at some down fences there. This right here is Highway 225 at Ritchie, and you could see the flooding. That is an exit sign there. Those roadways all completely flooded. So we are probably seeing a total closure for several miles there. And hopefully there's not anyone that was trying to get through there. But you can see that the feeder roads are just fine, but a lot of flooding, and this is going to take some time to recede. Right here, another angle of the same 225 at Ritchie. Again, the feeder roads are doing fine. It's the low-lying areas, Anthony, where we start to see a lot of the flooding and closures for people who are wanting to get by.
And if you have some more video, you guys, here we go. You know, the mayor saying earlier today too, infrastructure is certainly an issue here in the city of Houston. These pictures coming from Rosenberg Police. You can see the flooding there on the roadways. And this is something that we're going to be dealing with here for the next couple of hours. So let's get an update here from meteorologist John Dawson. John, you know, you were seeing, how are the heights in particular, the people up there in the Woodland Heights area up north of the city? How are things looking up there?
All right. Yeah, we're really seeing improvements all across the area at this point. Our very northernmost counties are still seeing some of those heavier rains, and along with that, the stronger winds. But we're certainly seeing improvements everywhere. Now, we're not completely rain-free yet, but we're definitely moving that direction and looking in a much better situation right now. So let's take a look at sort of that last, I think I've got 12 hours of history on the map here. Well, we'll check into that history a little bit later. I want to start by talking about rainfall then is what we're going to be doing. These are some 24-hour rainfall totals that we've been able to add up a little bit. So in the Sugar Land area, able to get close to 8 inches of rain. Buffalo Run Park in southwest Houston, also close to 8 inches of rain. McCalla at the South Beltway, that's about close to 10 inches of rain. Over 10 inches of rain just north of Alvin. Over in the Bear Creek area, we're getting up to 7.5 inches. Baytown also pulled in 8 inches. Channelview, similar area, about 8 inches, and Galveston Island 6 inches. The rain's not as much of the concern down in Galveston, I think, as some of that sort of backside. We've seen the Strand get a little bit of water on it from that storm surge issue, not as much of the rainfall. And then over in Bayou near 288, we've got about 9 inches of rain, almost 9.5 inches of rain. Again, these are 24-hour rainfall totals that we've been looking at so far. So the wind certainly is the other aspect, or something that we're keeping an eye on and we're very focused on. We've got sustained winds still around 30 miles an hour at Hobby Airport. Up in Huntsville, looking at 12 miles an hour. I'm a little suspicious perhaps some of our data is not really coming in very clearly. You see some of these arrows that don't have the numbers by it. That's when they got, for whatever reason, we lost that data, whether it was the connection itself or whether the instrument itself ran into problems. But even that Hobby Airport at 30 seems a little bit suspicious, but probably something close to that. Katy, about 24. You got that rotation taking place for sure, as that's centering around what sort of we have left of an eye of this particular system. So the heaviest of rain you can still see just north of Kerrigan, getting up closer into the Lufkin area. This is really just beginning to pull outside of what we would consider the Fox 26 viewing area. I know, of course, we've got all of our digital platforms, Fox Local, that's the smart TV app, that you've got available to you, that is something that is going to be making our folks a much larger viewing area than just what the broadcast antennas used to do. But if you haven't got that downloaded, you've got so many other features on there besides just our live programming. Something to consider. Again, for your smart TV, the Fox Local app gives you what's coming in and out of our studio live, but then also you have quite a few of these videos on demand that's available to you at other times of the day. But here's that heaviest rain, as I was talking about, starting to move up towards Lufkin, starting to clear now back towards Lake Livingston, Huntsville, Trinity, beginning to get a little bit of a break from some of this rain. You certainly got your share of some of the heavier rain, but there are some of these bands that still go all the way back into the Gulf of Mexico. So if you're over in Chambers County or in Winnie, that's where we're seeing those rain that are still fairly heavy. You notice the yellow and the red indicating those heavier downpours that are still happening, and that training effect can still line up. This line can just continue to hit the same area, and that will create some flooding problems. So we're not completely done with our floods warnings as well. We'll check in on those in just a minute. But also, so you got the bands that are coming around way back into the Gulf of Mexico, but then you also have kind of the backside that's getting wrapped around that, again, poorly defined center of circulation, but it's still kind of there. You can kind of make out where that low pressure is centered. Brenham, you're getting a little bit of that backside rain. Katy was getting in on some of that as well. Now it looks like we're kind of moving over into more of the downtown Houston area with some of these lighter rains. Again, this type of rain is maybe more of a nuisance than anything else, because maybe you're outside trying to do some cleanup. A reminder not to be wandering too far, but I know it's hard just to stay in the house for this long of amount of time, with whether it be you or your kids or your pets wanting to break out just a little bit, but not really ready to start wandering around at a distance yet. We still have quite a bit of hazards that are out there with power lines that are down. Some of those could be active. You got to be very safe. This type of system also will displace animals, so you could have some wild or domesticated animals that are a little bit scattered right now and not very happy either. So keep that in mind. And then just the basics like broken glass and all those other kind of sharp objects and things that you just want to be extra safe on. Don't want to be driving around and injuring or endangering your car as well. And obviously, when we've got water on the roadways, let's make sure that we're being extra cautious with the water on the roadways. So again, we're seeing these lighter bands, but they're much more manageable overall. There is a flash flood warning that's still in effect. That's going to be for the far eastern edges of our viewing area, over actually more into the Beaumont area. Winnie's right on the edge of that as well. And you can still see we've got this band of rain that's still lined up, continuing to drop quite a bit of rain for those folks. So this has already seen a lot of rain, and the expectations are with this training effect that's happening, still going to see some more rain. Right now, that warning is in effect. That flash flood warning is in effect until 5 p.m. And then this is where we've got sort of what was considered the aerial flood warning. When it says aerial flood warning, basically what it's indicating there is that we're not expecting more rain falling from the sky to create the flooding, but we still have so much water on the ground already causing problems that there needs to be a flood warning sent out. So it's from previous rains that have already fallen. That water has got to move around, or maybe it's just stuck and not moving anywhere. That's why we've got a flood warning for a large area of Brazoria County, Galveston County, even goes up into the very southern portions of Harris County. This is the spot that really has received the majority of the rain from Beryl as it came in this morning. The heaviest of those tropical rains just drenched this part of our viewing area, and that's why the aerial flood warning is still in effect. But conditions should be improving. You'll notice that this expiration time is at 2 p.m., so we're starting to get to the end of this particular warning. Most of the time, that would be a good estimate of when we can see conditions improving. But of course, the National Weather Service will extend that if necessary, or maybe they'll trim it down and extend it if only a certain part is a little bit more a concern for some of that. So again, just kind of backing up here and look at this bigger picture for we're looking at the last 3 to 4 hours of radar data. That eye is somewhat centered, it looks like, more or less over the Huntsville area right now, Walker County. So that's probably the quietest spot in town. We still have some clouds that are getting wrapped around behind, as well as some of that rain. So that traditional kind of satellite imagery that we would use to show a hurricane or a tropical system, not really a well-defined eye, but we're continuing to see that roll on through and continue to make its way up more or less to northeast Harris County. So I want to spend just a couple of minutes and sort of talk about the history of Beryl, what we can look back on, some facts, and we'll start with the landfalls. Officially, we'll put Beryl down as making 3 landfalls. The first one going to be those Windward Islands in Grenada. It was a Category 4 hurricane when it made that landfall with those max winds of 150 miles an hour. So, of course, that was when it was coming in off of the Atlantic, first encounter with land, really, and it was so strong, and it just kind of makes me appreciate a little bit that this system did not have the time to strengthen into something like a Category 4 hurricane. I know everyone across the Houston area is pretty good idea now of what a Category 1 hurricane can do at landfall. And when you increase all of that, almost doubling the winds on what we saw here in Houston, you can imagine how much more damage that would have been done. And of course, there's also rain that goes along with that. Moving to the Yucatan Peninsula on July the 5th, it made another landfall, this time as a Category 2 hurricane, max winds at 110 miles an hour. That's when it moved across the Yucatan, really got kind of chewed up a little bit by land and took a very long time to recover. So thankful for the dry air that prevented the system from developing any stronger, especially with all those warmer waters that were still out there. You would have expected it to increase in its strength and organization, but that dry air really fought it and kept that from happening. And then this morning, around 4 a.m., I think is the official time that the Hurricane Center is marking in the history books that a landfall near Matagorda is where we had today's landfall. Max winds at 80 miles an hour. That's a Category 1 hurricane. And those are the 3 official landfalls that we'll put on record. Now, some other interesting kind of facts that kind of go along with that. We've been talking about how active we expect this hurricane season to be. And I know from the beginning of Beryl, we were talking about how it was such a classic hurricane that you would see in August. It just did not make sense. The time of the year in which Beryl, it was just behaving like an August hurricane should behave, not like something that we see in June or July. And we have some indications on that. Number one, we normally don't see as strong of a hurricane this early in the year. But for the record books, this is in the Atlantic Basin. This is the earliest that we've ever seen a Category 4 hurricane form. And that is going to be June 30th when it became that Category 4 hurricane. Also, it will go on the record as being the earliest Category 5 hurricane that we've seen form, and that happened on July 2nd. Again, that's within the Atlantic Basin, and I will point out that our record books go back to 1851. I know that relatively that's a short amount of time if you want to look at the history of our planet, but that's still pretty good records if you want. It's not just like the last 50 years. I mean, that's going to go back to 1851 on the record books that we are able to keep these records for hurricanes and tropical systems that are out there. Obviously, once we got satellites, we got a few more details of what was going on out there, but overall, this will also go down as the highest or the strongest maximum sustained winds for an Atlantic hurricane prior to August. So remember, this system looks like it should have been in August, and we wouldn't have been surprised by a lot of what Beryl did if it would have been later in the year. So prior to August, this is the strongest winds we've ever seen within a hurricane in the Atlantic. And this one's a little bit sort of got a little bit of an explanation to it. Again, typically these storms are not going to form for that long, but we've got 4.5 days that this system was a Category 3, a major hurricane or stronger for 0.5 days, 4.5 days. And that's the most that we've ever been recorded for a category storm. Again, prior to August. So as I wrap up here, I want to just put it all together on the map for you. Back around June 26th, that when we were tracking this low pressure system, then eventually we got into the end of June, around the 29th, we formed a tropical depression, then it became a tropical storm. Here we are on July 1st, that first landfall as a Category 4 hurricane that we talked about here in the Windward Islands of Grenada. And then we were all really nervous because we knew past this point, the Caribbean in this area right here was just primed for massive intensification to take place. Everything was right for developing a tropical system. And that's what happened. It quickly developed into that Category 5 hurricane, and we were really concerned with all of our countries here, with Haiti and also over into Jamaica, where we would see the possibility of this making a lot of damage as it moved through. And it brushed Jamaica, officially not calling that a landfall, but it came really close and rocked the island for sure as a Category 1 hurricane. Same thing with the Cayman Islands, skirted just to the south of it, beginning to weaken, Category 3. Then we got to Cozumel and the Yucatan Peninsula, near Cozumel and the Yucatan Peninsula, made that landfall as a Category 2, got out, struggled in the Gulf of Mexico, and then here we are, July 8th this morning, 4 a.m., making that official landfall as a Category 1 hurricane. That is your history of Beryl. I'll go ahead and take a break right now, and we'll get back into the anchor desk and check in with what's happening in there.
A historic storm system for sure, JD. Thank you so much for that breakdown.
All right, and we have our Coco Dominguez standing by with some video and images that she's been getting in from our viewers. Yeah, a lot of this is incredible to even look at. Let me just say the alligators are out. I'm going to show you this first video coming in from Candy Senier. Now, this is from Highway 6 in Lake Olympia. Look closely. You will see the alligator pop its head and kind of looking to see what it can kind of get its probably hands on and mouth on. But folks are out helping each other right here, tie the boats down. My friend Candy had one boat, but she ended up with 3 boats. So her husband and the neighbors are out trying to tie some of these boats down so they're not kind of moving through, because that's also putting them in danger with the alligators and so many other things that have kind of moved around there. So you'll see them trying to do the Houstonian thing. Look at that alligator popping its head out. Not that there's not always alligators there, but they want to kind of, things have been shuffled around. So I'm sure that has kind of disturbed their life as well. So just be aware of that right there. Let's go now over to Kristen Pitter, who sent us this from New Caney. Now watch this tree. Pulled completely from its roots. That just tells you how powerful this storm has been and how strong. Look at this. A poor tree literally pulled from its roots. Thank you so much for sending that in. Hopefully nobody was hurt. And that's kind of the thing that's happening out there right now. Some of these trees have been compromised and they've been, wet. And so we don't really know how damaged they are. So just something to be aware of. We'll go now to our megaphone here and we'll look at White Oak flooding. Now, this is coming from Sean in Houston. Look at that. There's still a lot of flooding out there. There's a lot of high water. There's a lot of danger. Trees, people are getting out to the stores. I'm seeing a lot of people get out to the stores. Remember, you're still literally block for block. You can come across a block that has a tree right in front of it, and you're thinking, oh, I'll just push this tree. Do not touch the trees. Do not try to go around them. You're going to cause yourself much more damage. And when we say turn around, don't drown, that's not just you. That's your property. That's things that you've worked hard for. We definitely want to salvage both of them. All right, now we are going to another. This is near Upper Kirby, Levy Park. I want to show you some destruction. This is not too far from Levy Park. Garage and parking little areas there completely gone. The fence is damaged. And this area is not maybe 10 minutes from here from the station. So a lot of different areas have been hit. There's no one certain area that has taken it all. There's some extreme situations in every part of the city. It could be here
things could have weakened. So please, kind of like the airplane when they tell you that, when you're pulling your things down, things may have shifted. That's kind of the situation here. Things may have shifted with the property, with the building, with your home, with the trees. So basically just go out with caution. That is the most important thing you can do. Now, I do want to take some sound from Brandon Scott. This is in Southwest Houston, and he sent in this video from Greenway Plaza, Cummings on Greenway. All right, I'm not sure if we have that video up yet, but we did. If you got a chance to see it earlier, they're thinking this is probably the safest. We got it up. All right, let's go ahead and play that video.
So this is not what I was expecting. This is downstairs in the lobby area of our offices here at Greenway Plaza. I was not expecting any of this to happen. I mean, we've lost windows. There is broken glass. There's water, so it's kind of raining in the building. There's gonna have to be a tremendous cleanup here. I mean, like this is wild, man. This is at Greenway Plaza. Like we've lost windows. Check that out. I mean, that's serious right there. Like this is legit what we're experiencing right now, and this is really considered one of the safer places to be. So kind of wild. So this is...
Yeah, that is definitely a wild situation. I'll tell you, I used to work at 24 Greenway Plaza at the radio station. That is where it's now called Odyssey. It was CBS Radio. That's where Mix 96.5 is, sports radio, the Bull. And that you really think is the safest place to be. There's no way you think those big, huge windows are going to blow through, and that's kind of at the lobby, like he said. So that is what you're thinking. Oh, it's safe to be here, but it's really, I mean, and everything goes at this point because it's Mother Nature. We can't predict what Mother Nature will do and how strong it will come.
All right, Coco, thank you so much. And now we have some video. Coco was just mentioning White Oak Bayou. Well, we just have some video here from Constable Alan Rosen's office in Precinct 1. Has some video of a rescue taking place here. Let's watch this video here together. If you look at the top portion of your screen there, that orange boat, it looks like, that's where the rescue is actually taking place. And he also tweeted out some of this video on social media as well, showing some of the employees there in the constable's office going out to rescue that person who obviously needed help there. And that seems to look like a car as well.
Yeah, underneath the water.
And there's water there, yeah.
And when we saw a video a little bit earlier too, there were many people who had at least a foot of water inside of their home. Now, I'm sure that this is trying to get out to a resident here inside of this home and rescue them from those high waters, because it is taking some time for the waters to recede, and also with the high wind, it makes for a dangerous situation there. But you're right, it does look like there is a car also underneath water, and you can see that the windows are basically almost all the way covered up. So we're looking at several feet of water, something that you would need a rescue boat in order to get people to be rescued from that area. So that's what they are providing there.
Yeah, a lot of rain we received here today in a very short amount of time. So now let's go out to our reporter here, Randy Wallace, who's at Braze Bayou with an update there. Randy.
Yeah, Anthony, we're at Braze Bayou at North Brazewood, and as you can see, it has come up out of its banks now. Hours ago, this whole street was underwater. There was no way that you could pass it. There's some people that are able to drive through right now, but if we go, Raymond, let's go this way here. Take a look back here. You can still see there's some flooded street. That right there is still flooded. You've got people that are turning around. We've seen some trucks that they go ahead and make their way through, but a car is just not going to be able to do that. And that's something that folks got to think about. They're driving around. You can come across an area where all of a sudden it's just impassable. Or if you try to do it, more than likely you're going to flood out. Again, this is North Brazewood at Braze Bayou. The bayou has come out of its bank. It's extremely high. And of course, this is a dangerous situation to try to drive through. You see these two that they're not going to do it. They're turning around. But then you see this truck coming and he's spraying water everywhere.
it's just not worth it, folks, to get out to survey the damage. There's not a whole lot of places open, so you're not really going to be able to go anywhere. So again, probably the best thing to do is stay home for at least a few more hours. Back to you.
All right, Randy Wallace reporting live for us there. Now, we do know our Abigail died. We do have crews all over the area surveying the damage for you safely to get you, basically be your eyes and ears for you.
All right, we just got word. We're having some technical difficulties with her shot right now. We'll get back to Abigail in just a second. While we're doing that to get that taken care of, we also want to talk about here, the mayor, I believe we should be getting another update here, another press conference in a couple of hours, but he did hold one earlier this morning at around 11 o'clock, giving us an update about what's taking place. Again, the high water rescues continue to be happening. We just showed you some video there from Constable Precinct 1 deputy right there.
Alan Rosen.
Alan Rosen, right, at White Oak, and that issue, those rescues continue to happen there. We even said that they had more than 400 911 calls in an hour. So just kind of, if you don't need the help, but if you have reports of anything, you want to dial 311 or 211 as much as possible. Try to leave those lines open, 911, because there are a lot of folks, emergency crews out there assisting folks. So kind of sit tight. We're not there yet. You can see the radar behind us, still a little bit of activity, so we're not going to clear just yet.
The good news, though, from Randy's live shot over at Bayou is he was saying how just about an hour ago, the water was on the roadway, and it looks like it is receding. We're on the good end there. We're looking like it is going to get better before it gets worse, if it does get worse at all.
All right, you guys, give us an update here. Is Abigail shot back up? All right, not yet. So we continue to give us some more shots. Gonna look outside. How about TransStar cameras we can pull up and give you guys an idea what's happening there on the road? You say Randy Wallace, folks are still trying to drive through some of these areas, and we continue to say turn around, don't drown. Here we see 288 at Alameda. A couple of folks out there on the roads, but you can see there are some pockets of our community where we have standing water. Infrastructure continues to be an issue. The mayor said that earlier today, as we see the rain come down 10 to 15 inches for some of us. So now we have some standing water and some flooding in our community.
We'll be right back.
Car wreck, you hope the insurance company will make your problems go away, but they won't. Call Simmons & Fletcher today at 1-800-JUSTICE. Simmons & Fletcher, Christian trial lawyers.
For nourished, lightweight hair, the right ingredients make all the difference. Herbal Essences Sulfate-Free is now packed with plant-based ingredients your hair will love, like pure aloe and camellia flower oil, and none of the things it won't. Hair feels deeply nourished, soft, and lightweight. Plant power you can feel. Herbal Essences Sulfate-Free.
On your period, sudden gushes happen. Say goodbye gush fears thanks to Always Ultra Thins with rapid dry technology that absorbs 2 times faster. Hello, clean and comfortable. Always fear no gush.
When pain freezes you in your tracks, Vapo frees your pain away. Penetrating pain relief with Vicks Vapors. Vapo frees your pain away. Now at Walmart.
Is your insurance company giving you the runaround? I'll rise to the occasion. Hire Eric Dick on your home insurance claim. Call me right now at 832-LAWYERS. Don't delay. Call me right away. 832-LAWYERS. Better get Dick.
Murders that could have been prevented.
I'm still in shock. I still can't believe why somebody would be so cruel and do this to him.
Violent criminals out of jail and out on bond.
Es un dolor profundo para mí.
Why are judges allowing these offenders to remain free?
No debían de haber estado afuera, porque solo salieron a matar a mi hijo.
Stories you will see on just one station.
He begged for his life, and they still shot him.
Breaking Bond, part of Fox 26 News at 9 p.m.
Don't miss the summer savings going on now at Affordable Dentures and Implants. New denture wearers can save an average of $700 with a free upgrade to our premium denture. Offer ends July 22nd.
Go ahead and smile.
Thank you so much for joining us back here with our continuing coverage of what Beryl has left behind. We are now assessing the damage and seeing basically what kind of damage that this hurricane and tropical storm has caused.
Yeah, it is now 2 o'clock. Our coverage continues now. Ramisha, I believe at 2 o'clock we were looking to see if there were some explorations on some of these flood warnings and watches. Can you give us an update on that?
Well, the good news is that we no longer have flash flood warnings in our area. At one point, we had numerous flash flood warnings as those heavy rain bands associated with Beryl were rolling through, but we'd still have flood warnings and flood advisories because we've still got to deal with a lot of flooding from several inches of rain. In fact, anywhere from about 5 to almost 15 inches of rain have fallen for much of the area between last night and today. We're looking at our radar loop, and you can see that counterclockwise circulation. That's basically what's left of the eye and eye wall of Beryl that rolled right over parts of Houston, Sugar Land, Katy, Cypress, the Woodlands, and now it's racing off to the north and east. Of course, Beryl did intensify as it was getting close to making landfall to a Category 1 80-mile-per-hour hurricane around 4 a.m. this morning, making landfall right around Matagorda. And of course, it pushed onshore, bringing a ton of devastating, damaging wind, a lot of heavy rain, and of course, that dangerous storm surge. So I want to show you what's going on now. You may be thinking, is the worst over? The answer is yes, but there are still quite a few hazards out there. We still have flood warnings, aerial flood warnings that you see on the map. That basically means the worst of the rain is over, but we're still dealing with the aftermath from some of that heavy rain. So you need to watch out for flooded streets. Just stay at home, stay where you are, avoid getting out there if you can. But if you do have to be out there and you encounter one of these flooded roads or a road that has barricades, don't try to drive through it. Turn around, try to find an alternate route. You can still see widespread aerial flood warnings covering Houston, up towards the Woodlands, down around League City, Galveston, Angleton, Lake Jackson, where some of these spots have picked up over 10 inches of rain over the last 12 hours. Also, notice the dark red shading off to our east, including Liberty and Livingston. That is a tornado watch. Anytime you have a tropical system make landfall, that large-scale circulation can kind of break down into these smaller spin-ups, and you always have a higher risk for some tornadoes forming. So no tornado warnings for us right now, but there is still the chance that some of these cells that you see just to the east of Galveston and League City could briefly spin up a tornado or two. So we're monitoring that risk as well. In fact, all the way through the rest of today into early tonight. That tornado watch means conditions are favorable for the development of a few tornadoes. I want to take you back to what we went through last night and this morning. It was scary. It was ferocious. And I know a lot of you are probably on pins and needles wondering what's coming next. You probably heard a lot of loud noises, loud sounds outside. That's due to the fact that we had wind gusts close to 100 miles per hour, believe it or not, at State Highway 36 at Brazos, Houston University, registering a wind gust near 90 miles per hour. Those are definitely hurricane force wind gusts. Surfside Beach, wind gusts near 90 miles per hour. Hobby Airport, wind over 80 miles per hour at one point this morning. And Galveston, wind gusts near 80 miles per hour. That's just one side of it. What about the rainfall? Well, Hillshire Village, close to 15 inches of rain over the last 12 to 24 hours. Sugar Land, close to 13.5 inches. Brookside Village, close to a foot of rain for you. Friendswood, over 10 inches. And Waller, a little over 7 inches. So we really need Beryl to be long gone. The good news is that it's not just sitting over us and cranking out a ton of wind and a ton of rain for a few more days. It is moving and it is weakening. Beryl now a tropical storm with 60-mile-per-hour winds as of the last 1 p.m. advisory. And it should be getting close to Tyler, Texas by this evening, getting close to 6 to 7 p.m. with winds around 45 miles per hour. So it will continue to weaken and track northeast as it picks up speed and kind of gets picked up by a trough and moves out of our area. In fact, should be into Arkansas by tomorrow morning. But the damage is done. So we're going to have a lot of cleaning up to do. And there's still quite a few hazards out there. We're talking about a lot of power lines down, a lot of huge trees that have been blown down, uprooted, blown into pools, knocked onto your rooftop. knocked into roads. We've got live power lines down. So it's just a big mess out there. We've got several streets that are flooded. So certainly you need to be extremely cautious if you have to get out there. If you don't, just try to wait it out, stay safe, and hopefully wait for that power to come back on, because of course we've still got a few million still without power. All right, as far as our bayous, they are in trouble as well. We've got major flood stage going on right now for White Oak Bayou at Houston, 38.25 feet. You can see that is in that major flood stage, so you certainly want to avoid that area. We had Randy Wallace over there earlier, and you just saw all of the flooding going on around him, so not the place to be. Of course, Greens Bayou at Houston in moderate flood stage now, close to 58 feet, so problems there as well. Buffalo Bayou at Piney Point Village, still in minor flood stage, but that could still be an issue as some of that water could rise, as we could get more of that rainfall developing as we go throughout the day. Braze Bayou, 38 feet, so still in the action stage at this point. And same story for Braze Bayou at Gessner, Braze Bayou at Houston, both in that action stage. So we are monitoring the bayous. Of course, we've still got flooding going on, but the good news, the worst of the rain has pushed out, but we're still dealing with that tornado watch. In fact, all the way through 10 p.m., that does still include you in the Woodlands, Conroe, Huntsville, Livingston, Cleveland, and back to Liberty. It does not include Houston, but you can see that elevated tornado risk mainly to the north and east of Houston as we go through the rest of today and tonight. So there are so many hazards and risks when you have a landfalling tropical system, and we have been experiencing quite a few of those. But here's a little bit of good news I can give you. If you're ready for things to kind of try to get back to normal, it's going to take a while, but we've gotten rid of that heaviest rain. We still got some light showers coming across the Woodlands, and not much going on for downtown Houston. We are getting a break from that rain now, but overall, we are expecting still a fairly unstable atmosphere, so we could have more of these thunderstorms popping up as we go through the rest of today. In fact, we've got this band of heavier showers and storms over around Seabreeze down to High Island. These are the cells that we're going to have to monitor in eastern Chambers County and pushing off to the east for that possibility of a little bit of rotation where we could have a brief spin up, a brief tornado occurring for the rest of today. Nothing like that, though. Up towards Navasota and Hempstead, just some light rain showing up there, so that is good news. So things have improved. At one point, it was just a big, giant wall of rain coming at us and a lot of wind. So as this system weakens and tracks farther north and east, things are going to slowly improve, but we've got so much cleanup to do, so many hazards that we still have out there. So you still really don't want to get out there on the roads if you don't have to. We've got trees down everywhere, power lines down, and like I said, quite a bit of flooding. Check out our 12-hour rainfall. Notice that purple color. That's about 6 to 12 inches of rain showing up. This big swath where the center of circulation of Beryl moved through this Sugarland area, parts of Katy, Houston, Atascocita, the Woodlands, and Conroe. You can see several inches of rain showing up from Lake Jackson, 6, 7, 8 inches of rain for parts of those areas, all the way down to the coast. And that rain spread farther inland as we went through the morning. Houston up into Pearland, Sugarland, Thompson's, all getting several inches of rain. So we are certainly dealing with the potential for more flooding. And of course, I'm monitoring the radar closely for that chance for more rain that could lead to additional flooding issues. Of course, the wind was ferocious. It was horrific for a while there. Those 80, 90, close to 100-mile-per-hour gusts. Here's the good news. Wind gusts have died down to about 20 to 50 miles per hour for most of you. Still showing a 53-mile-per-hour gust for Conroe, 43-mile-per-hour gusts out at Bush Airport. But notice our model showing those winds gradually subsiding and getting a little weaker as Beryl moves away from us. In fact, by 5 p.m. this evening, wind gusts likely around 30 miles per hour or less. So things are improving, but it's going to take a while, quite a long time for many of you to clean up from the aftermath, and we've got to wait for the power to be restored. So a lot of hazards out there. Of course, we are tracking that tornado threat, the flooding threat, the wind threat, and of course, we'll be keeping you updated as we go throughout the afternoon and evening. Let's head back over to the news desk.
All right, Ramisha, thank you for that. Now, we do have our reporter, Greg Rugen, who has been surveying the damage over on 610 and 288.
Yeah, let's check in with him to see what it looks like there. Greg.
Hey guys, still a big honking mess here at 288 and 610. Again, I mean, it seems like this area floods every time we get significant precipitation. But as you can see, folks didn't learn the lessons of the past. We have 1, 2, 3 motorists who've abandoned their vehicles. We saw a Tesla pile into the water earlier. Fortunately, he was able to back up and kind of float out of here. But it is extending about, I'd say the good part of half a mile, anywhere from 2 to 3 feet. It appears to be draining off some. It is still, as I said, a big honking mess here. You know, there's kind of an irony here. My wife, who is a former Fox 26 reporter, Michelle Grugan, in 2020, or was it 2021, when Tropical Storm Allison struck this city, she was out at this exact same location for 2 days. It was completely underwater. Now, there's been a lot of construction here, and so maybe that has something to do with it. Maybe the drainage isn't completely finished, but this is a mess, and it will stop people from using this important artery for a while until this water drains off. Guys, back to you.
All right, Greg Rugen reporting live there for us. It's interesting to see how this is all going to pan out. Hopefully that holds up.
Definitely. And it's just so scary because you have all these people that have probably been in a situation where they had to abandon their vehicle because they were in a dangerous situation there. Now, this is also pretty dangerous and scary when a condo is collapsing. And that's what happened earlier this morning. That's why we find Tom Ziska reporting live for us there in the Montrose area.
Rashi, Caroline, I give you another big honking mess, but one that no one was able to see coming. We're in the West Gray Shepherd area. McDuffie is the road that these townhomes are on. So this was just after 8 o'clock when this happened, right at the height of the front end of what Beryl was bringing to bear, all of that wind. And I am told that the woman who owns this particular townhome, and she's been going back and forth trying to collect some things. She's understandably shaken up. She does not want to talk to us on camera about what happened, but she saw some kind of leaking in the ceiling. So she grabbed her cat and she got out. And shortly after that, this roof, this side of the building went kablooey. There was a guy next door with his girlfriend. I talked to him. Take a listen.
We heard a collapse, and we saw what is essentially the roof that was right there collapsed and onto the porch, the patio, blocking the door and blocking the entrance to the unit that we were in. So at that point, we're trying to figure out what we're going to do and what's going on. We got a picture from someone from the outside view, and that's what really concerned me because didn't want to be in the unit and it collapses on our head, of course. Mm-hmm. But all in all, I guess it's sort of the wrong place at the wrong time.
So there was a 911 call at some point.
Correct, yeah.
Some fire department comes calling.
Right, so yes, we were able to get through to the fire department. They were very busy, but we're very thankful to the Houston Fire Department for rescuing us. We had to go out the second story off the ladder with the dog through the window to be rescued. So thank God everyone's safe.
Yeah. And everyone was safe, despite the damage from here and how badly it could have occurred. Everybody was safe. Nobody injured here as Beryl roared through and tore this townhome apart. So obviously there are people who need to find new places to live. That's problematic. And a lot of people have, I posted a picture of this on my Facebook page, some people asking, how could that happen? Was that a tornado? Hard to say. Those were really strong winds, but folks who live here, Tori, if you'll show up this thing right here, this tower right next door was built, I don't know how long ago, but fairly new. People who live in this older collection of buildings seem to think that the bigger, newer, taller tower may be causing some windstorm type stuff, some wind tunnel type stuff. It's not unimaginable, but it's one of the things that they're looking to. They're trying to look really, for some reason, why something like this would happen, as they now pick up the pieces. We're in the River Oaks area, West Gray, Shepherd. Tom Ziska, Fox 26 News.
Tom, that's crazy to see that happening, but you got to imagine there was a lot of rotational winds going on as the tropical storm and the hurricane ripped through earlier. So I'm not surprised, but it is still just shocking to see.
Really, the amazing thing to me is that the woman who lives there just noticed that there was leaking from the ceiling, which was probably that roof already kind of giving way, and she had the foresight to grab her cat and get out. Could you imagine if she was in the bedroom when that happened? How scary that could have been, how tragic that could have been. But that was not the case. She had the foresight to get out, and it really saved herself a lot of trouble, potentially. Now they got the mess to worry about.
Tom, have you talked to any other residents around there? Because I know that area also without electricity.
Yeah, there's no power here. And around here, there are a lot of downed branches, downed trees, downed lines. As we were making our way over here, I can tell you that my photographer partner Tori and I, we passed a whole crew of Houston Fire Department responders, lights and sirens. So we followed them a little bit. What we found there was new home construction. Is maybe about a mile from here, and a tree had downed a power line and knocked the power line and the transformer into this new home, and it just sat there for several hours. Some neighbors saw, while they were making lunch, they looked out the window and they saw that transformer was kind of sparking a little bit and it was smoking a little bit. They called 911. It was about to start a fire in that house. They saved the fire, so minimal damage there, but it's the kind of thing that this is pretty area with the homes and the older utility lines as well. So it's a recurring problem here with those trees and the lines all down here, and trying to get it all back up and running.
All right, Tom Ziska reporting live for us there. Tom, I know that the question many people have is, when is this power going to be restored? Yeah. We do know that according to CenterPoint, they just updated about 2 minutes ago saying that they have restored about 500,000 customers, still 2.2 million without power. So there's a long way to go.
Yeah. My house included, lots of people's houses included.
Wow. All right, Tom, thank you. Thanks for that update.
Yep.
On the flip, I have heard some people text me, hey, we got power back in my area. So that's good.
Yes.
I mean, at least there's some signs of hope, but you got to think about the magnitude of this tropical storm, this hurricane earlier that came through, knocking out power to more than 2 million people.
Yes. And I think so many people also have those leaks in the roof that they didn't know they had before. And I know that you personally
Should we put video of it? I have the video. I haven't sent it to our news desk yet, but
it's even one of my
pretty crazy.
My friend who I stayed with, her roof was leaking as well. And so it was like, needed to have buckets out there and everything. And okay, here we go. So we have the CenterPoint here where this updated information, I'm not sure is what I had. I did have something that was, I think that one was, that what you're looking at here was not as current as what I was looking at, according to CenterPoint. But regardless, the numbers are in the hundreds of thousands when it comes to the amounts of power that has been restored. And we do have 2.2 million people still without power. That's showing 2.1 million. So regardless, the message is that people are getting their power restored, and it is going to take some time. But silver lining, like you said, there are people that are getting their power restored as we speak.
Yes, and just a reminder, there's a lot of flooded areas. Stay out of the water. It can be very dangerous. You could even get electrocuted. So we're going to keep reminding you of these little things because they can turn into big things if you don't pay attention. But we have our meteorologist, John Dawson, standing by with an update on what this weather is doing and how this storm is looking. We're going to hear from him in just a second. Hi, JD.
One of those things where we expect that we would have, casualties perhaps or injuries when a storm makes a landfall. Sometimes trees just fall on houses, and even if you're doing the most smart thing that you're supposed to be doing, things happen that are bad. But when things happen that shouldn't happen, like generator safety, that's what I really get upset about. And I just want to stress, if you are not familiar with how to safely operate a generator, please don't use the generator. Yes, they are amazing pieces of equipment and they can be so helpful. They can be life-saving. But if you're not running it correctly, you can hurt yourself and your loved ones. And that's basic safety, is that you have to keep that thing away from the house. You have to keep that carbon monoxide that it creates away from people. And if you have it under a porch, that's not safe. That carbon monoxide can come up through the roof and into your home, and it can kill you. So I want to stress, don't use a generator if you are not aware of how to safely use a generator. And again, you know, get some education, ask some people, find out. I'm glad you've got one, but use it correctly so that you can get all the benefits from it and not have any of the hazards that can come along with that. All right, so please make sure that you're safe with those generators. Other hazards, such as power lines down, that's another thing that we should not have any injuries from. Don't be wandering around. We've got wildlife or even domesticated animals that can create some problems. So make sure that you're being safe as you're slowly beginning to evaluate things around your home just a little bit more. There was a look at what Beryl was looking like as it was a tropical storm. Again, it's still a tropical storm. And remember that it did make landfall as a hurricane. I want to go over these rainfall totals real quick with you. We've got areas that were close to 8 inches in Sugar Land. Same thing in Southwest Houston, maybe 10 inches of rain in McCalla, in the south, in the Beltway. Over in Baytown, also up to 8 inches. We've got a lot more that we're going to continue to talk about with Beryl, and we're going to go back into the studio right now.
All right, JD, thank you for that update. Now, we do have Greg Rugen speaking with Congressman Al Green.
Yes, let's go live to him and see what he has to say. Greg.
Hey, guy, here with me, Congressman Al Green. He's been through many of these weather emergencies with us. He's provided or helped and worked hard to provide billions of dollars to try to make our community more weather resilient. Congressman, a few thoughts after this, well, tough day.
Well, it's been a tough day, but I am absolutely shocked by what I'm seeing here at 288 and 610. Literally, we have cars that are submerged. There must be a way to prevent this from happening. We spent too much money on this very area to see this occurring now. At least we should have some sort of gates that will come down to keep people from going into this area once the rain becomes an inundation. But more importantly, there ought not be this amount of water just accumulating in this spot. We knew when we designed this that it could do this. There has to be a way to prevent this. I'm hopeful that no one has suffered any kind of injury. I don't have a report yet to give some indication as to what the status is, but this is shocking when you see it.
Congressman, you have tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of constituents. Are you getting reports into your office? What are you hearing from friends and family?
Well, we have our staff out, and they've all given us reports, and we all get the same reports. Flooding, branches down all over the place. In some places, trees are down. This has been more than just a tropical storm, typical tropical storm. We've had persons to have to suffer power outages. I understand that about 1.8 million people had a power outage in the Houston area. It's been serious, and I'm glad that people took it seriously, and we don't have a lot of deaths, because this could have claimed some lives, but I don't have a full report yet. My hope is that people have been spared, and I really hope that people will understand that we have to do something about this intersection. We have to do something about this.
When we're talking about weather resilience in an era of climate change and climate activity, does this help you make the case when you go and say we need appropriations for the energy capital of our country, the fourth largest city in America?
Well, I know that Fox 26 will help us make the case, because by reporting this, you're helping us make the case. I came out to get photographs so that I can take these photographs back and present them to the appropriators. There has to be a way to deal with this issue. This is not the first time this has happened. We spent billions of dollars trying to eliminate this problem, maybe not exactly here, but the flooding. So we've got to do something about this spot. Now, there are other places in the city too. I'm not saying that this is the only place, but I am saying that we knew or should have known this could occur at this location because of past incidents, and we've got to do something about it. My hope is that we can convince people, first of all, that this is not a short-term problem. This is not a one-off weather event. We've had temperatures to be higher than normal. We've had water that we've not had before, rains coming into California, rivers in the sky. There has to be something going on here. And one of the challenges that we have is convincing some of my colleagues that there is something more than just one-off events taking place. Too many 100-year floods are taking place in a 10-year period. We've got to agree that there is a fact that has to be dealt with. The problem we're having in Congress now is we can't agree on facts. You see it, but you can't believe it. This is unbelievable, and you have to see it to see how unbelievable it is.
We have people across the country who are considering moving their businesses here or potentially moving here. How important is further investment in resilience to the long-term success of Houston, Texas?
Well, it's imperative. All roads lead to Houston now. Houston is a diverse city. We have a well-educated workforce. We have access to rail lines, and we have access to seaports. We have the hub for international affairs to take place in terms of trade and doing business. But we also have to make sure that we are taking care of the things that will make it possible for people to maneuver. The ship channel we're working on, but we've got to make sure that people can get around on a rainy day. Now, this was unusual weather in that it was a tropical storm that became a Hurricane Cat 1, but on just wet days, we have some problems to deal with, and we're trying. And we're going to do our very best to make sure that we eliminate all of these problems and not look, we can't guarantee that it'll never flood again in Houston. But in places such as this one, right here at 610 and 288, we should be able to do something about this.
One last question or one last opportunity. I know you'd probably like to send a message to all your constituents, friends, family, the people that you work hard for in Washington. A message of encouragement, perhaps, or a message of information for what your office can do for them in the coming weeks.
Well, my office can be reached at 713-383-9234. And it doesn't matter what congressional district you live in. You call us, and we'll get you to the appropriate congressperson if you're not within our congressional district. And yes, here's the message to my constituents and all Houstonians. This is something that should act as a kind of a warning to us. It gives us notice of things that may be in our future. And so we should prepare for these things. I am most appreciative. I talked to the mayor today. He has been working to pull things together, and I appreciate what he's doing. Couldn't make it to a press event that he was having. I've talked to the mayor out in Missouri City, out in Stafford, out in Pearland. All of these mayors are coming together to help get this done. Here's what happens for those who don't know. When we have these weather-related events, doesn't matter whether you're Republican, a Democrat, doesn't matter. We come together to take care of our constituents. And that means that we have to do things together. And when I talk to them, there is no question about who's a Democrat or who's a Republican. The question is, how can we get these issues resolved? And that's what we want to do. So I want the people to know that we're working to resolve issues, but I also want people to know that they have to take care and make sure that they don't find themselves in the circumstance that I see below me, where I see vehicles that are now in water above the hood level on those vehicles. There has to be some way for us to prevent this from happening. I don't want to see it happen to anyone. If it happens to one person, it happens to one person too many.
Congressman Al Green, thanks for talking to us. The congressman always in the field, always talking to the people, always trying to make their lives better. Back to
always
you guys.
an idiot.
All right, Greg, thank you so much. And I know that could be so frustrating because they've spent so much money in that area and they're still seeing that flooding. But Congressman Al Green bringing up a good point that if there's some type of barrier or something to prohibit people from actually going through that water, because there's all these cars underwater right now.
It's crazy that they don't realize and it's hard to see, and then they go right in there. So great update there by Greg Grugan and Congressman Al Green. But now we want to head out to Jonathan Mejia. He's at Jamaica Beach in Galveston County, giving us an update on conditions out there. Jonathan, how's it going out there?
Yeah, right now we're just feeling the winds. The rain has stopped here, but we're definitely seeing the damage that was left by that strong wind that hit this area earlier today. Take a look at this home right behind me. You're going to see that the roof is off of this home and just several damage down here. If you take a look more towards the left, you're going to see where that roof landed. It landed across the street. Now, we're standing here outside of the Jamaica Beach City Hall where I just spoke with the Jamaica Beach chief police here, and he tells me that he's just grateful that his team and the first responders were able to get this woman out of her home safely. She's okay. She did not need medical attention. She was just shaken up by the big damage that was left here by this storm. Now, this isn't the only home here that received roof damage. There is also a second home that had its roof blown away. Now, the owner of that home, he is a man, and he's also in good condition.
All right, guys, it's looking like pretty much everything that we've seen from a damage standpoint. What this guy just showed is the worst damage. 2 roofs blown off, and that's down in Galveston. That's right near where the hurricane made landfall. So it looks like, other than inconveniences, and I don't say that lightly because I know they've lost lives, but the majority of people will be dealing with inconveniences of losses of power, roadways being, in some cases, flooded, at least tough to pass and tough to maneuver on. Obviously, you don't know what kind of debris is in there as well, as far as any kind of rising water. But luckily, I think from what I've seen so far, 3 people dead, 2 were trees on houses, 1 a house burned. That's a pretty low count, but that's still obviously more than what we should be dealing with. I mean, I don't know how you, other than leaving, how you protect yourself from trees falling on houses, because I mean, the rest of one of the men's family was in the house and they were all just fine. So hopefully there's not much more of that. It looks like a lot of the rain is stopping in Houston, so hopefully that's going to subside, which will allow the ground to firm up a little bit, and these trees won't be easily uprooted by these stronger gusts of wind. And obviously the gusts of wind are going to be dying down too. So I think for the most part, the threat in Houston is probably down. Now, understand we're going to probably have down power lines and things like that. So there's a little bit of a danger there. People need to be still careful about getting out. I want to say this: anybody that's in the path of the hurricane as it goes up, it looks like it's going to swing up northeast. Please understand that you are your own first responder. Don't be afraid to protect your own stuff. Looters don't care about natural disasters, so they will intervene and try to take your stuff. So be prepared for that. If you see somebody coming onto your property that's uninvited, they more than likely are not there to help you. Unfortunately, that's just the way human nature is. We've been through enough hurricanes down here in South Louisiana to say that an armed society is certainly a polite society. Nobody wants to be shot. That includes looters. So make it known that you may actually be able to protect yourself, because a lot of these, let's just call them leeches, will look for people that are easy targets and that they can take care of easily. So please be careful. I'm going to get out of here because, again, it looks like for the most part, a lot of my friends in the path of this hurricane are probably safe now. So I'm going to close the live stream. I appreciate everybody hanging out with us. Good to see all of you guys. Again, those of you that are in the path, please be aware that you are your own first responder. That goes for security mainly, but also for safety as well. So just be aware that if you're staying and there's any potential danger, that you have what you need to take care of yourself and your family in the event any kind of injuries or anything like that take place. So best of you in the path. Prayers for everybody who has to deal with this, because it's certainly not a pleasant situation. I appreciate everybody hanging out with us today. Talk to you guys soon.